Welcome into Sportstime. Bryant and Brett with you. Landon Schmidt producing. We're Sportstime. We're with you for the next 2.5 hours. A shorter show today because the Ole Miss Rebels basketball team, they're in action later tonight, a 6 o'clock tip-off against Alabama. So we'll get out of here about 5:30 for the pregame show for that tip-off at 6 o'clock. We got a ton to get into. The Grizzlies, they were in action last night. Another loss to the Houston Rockets. We had the final wild card game between Minnesota and the LA Rams that we've got to talk a lot about. A lot of NFL news with who gets hired, what's going to happen in a lot of these places, especially with the Cowboys job becoming open yesterday afternoon. So plenty to get into over these next 2.5 hours. But Brett, how are you this afternoon?
Doing great, Bryant. Doing great. Last night I did it. I went where no man should ever go.
Okay.
0-6.
That's right. Yeah, I was thinking about that last night.
0-6.
I was thinking about you.
Good work, Landon.
It happens. You know?
Connor, he took the other side, as you so very well said.
Yes.
One of y'all will go 0-6,
right.
And it was me.
Yeah. That was game last night. I mean, that
in my
was something.
dream NFL picking. It's been a horrible year overall of picking for me by me, but this year in the NFL, 82-58.
Wow.
585. Sign me up next year for 585
I'll take
in the
that
NFL.
for sure, especially in the NFL. I mean, that's tough.
And that was with my 0-6 last night.
That's pretty good. Yeah, bro, that's really good.
I'm leading in NFL. Connor's in second. He can catch me. He's 80-60. That's 571. Darian third in NFL, but far and away the leader overall, 73-67. You're 69-71, so you can still finish 500.
All right, that's what we're playing for.
4 games this week, Conference Championship weekend, and Super Bowl LIX.
Yeah, Super Bowl LIX, love it. The build up to it. But that game last night I did not expect it to play out like that, and it did. And LA, a team that, I think people forget 1-4 to start the year, looked completely
without Aaron
lost. Yeah, had injuries all over the place with those receivers that were out. And now, looked at home last night in a home game that wasn't at their home stadium in Arizona.
Pretty big Viking influence in the stadium.
No, it definitely
looked
was.
like to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they papered that crowd or how they got it, but it looked very well attended.
Yeah, it looked good. From you pointed out yesterday with kind of all the visuals we saw throughout the day yesterday of, the NFL and the Rams did a really nice job of, getting the field ready and kind of getting the stadium prepared to make it feel like a Rams game. And then I even saw yesterday afternoon, planes and buses and things coming in with season ticket holders, so that they could be in attendance for the game. So yeah, I thought the NFL did a really nice job making that feel like a NFL playoff game when, the obviously things going around, the circumstances did not point to that feeling like an NFL playoff
We've
game.
talked about this before, and not a fun topic, especially not fun for the team, the city that falls under this. But isn't Minnesota now kind of Loserville, USA?
Yeah, they're getting close to that. And last night
never
didn't
with the
help at all.
T-Wolves.
No.
Not yet with the Wild. I don't think ever with the North Stars.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's
never with the Vikings.
Yeah, and this didn't feel like a go for it year for Minnesota by any means for the Vikings, but this felt like you can get out of the wild card and maybe
won 14 games.
Yeah, this was a good team and they were playing well. Heck, Brett, we're talking about a matchup between them and the Detroit Lions of who's going to get first place and have that bye in the first round of the playoffs. And, that game, a lot of people were split on how that would play out. And, ultimately they lose that game and then they come back out and lose again last night. And so, yeah, it's just hard. I know a guy who lives here and he is a big Minnesota Vikings fan.
See, Brian, I'm going to interrupt you. When you say, I know a guy, that has far different meaning than when some people say, I know a guy.
That's right. Yes. No,
I got a guy.
Yeah, no. I just know a guy. I just know a fella who is a big Minnesota Vikings fan and a massive Grizzlies fan. Oh, I was thinking about him last night. I was like, this is not a fun night to be that guy.
There's a big fan of every NFL team in this market.
No, there really is.
You can find super Arizona Cardinal fan. I know a super Seahawk fan.
Wow.
I know a super-duper Seattle Seahawks fan in Oxford long before they got DK Metcalf.
Really?
Long before. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It is his team. And you can find that with NFL, and I think you can find it almost in any market of every NFL team. A lot of baseball teams. Basketball gets a little more localized. NBA gets a little more localized.
Certainly. Yeah. And I think you're seeing that especially with the Grizzlies. I mean, we always talk about it when it comes to Grizzlies versus Tigers and all of this stuff that, for a lot of people my age who have, I was born in 2000. All my friends were born in 1999, 2000. It's both.
Comfortably both.
Yes, but there are a lot of people who, they're Tennessee fans, they're Ole Miss fans, they're whatever it might be around, but man, they love the Grizzlies, and we all can agree in the Grizzlies, and it's just kind of growing up with that in kind of this era of having the Grizzlies your entire life. It creates major fandom.
One of those early big playoff runs, I suggested to someone in promotion, game ops, marketing, that for one of the games, instead of the white T-shirts or whatever, have everybody in this area show up in their favorite college stuff.
Oh, man, yeah.
And the guy said, great idea. We want to sell them stuff in our team store. we're not really that concerned with seeing somebody show up in Tiger or Alabama or Georgia or whatever gear.
That would be an interesting idea, though, because you're right. I mean, you would have everybody.
Here's another one that went nowhere. So, at a lot of these college football places, Tennessee, the orange and white Shakers, Alabama, the red and white Shakers, instead of the T-shirts that we have at every, or the towels at every game, have the Grizzlies blue and gold or whatever, yellow, whatever color it is, have those Shakers.
Yeah.
And I said, think of that atmosphere, when TBS or whoever threw it, let's go to Memphis for game one of the Grizzlies. And that first shot is everybody doing that. And this person nicely said, Brett, you're full of great ideas. We got to get an advertiser somewhere in there. We can't get it on that stick. We can get it on that towel. We can get it on that T-shirt. But on that stick is not showing. It would go nowhere.
Yeah, got to get a sponsor involved.
You got to understand that. We know the sponsorship world.
We definitely do, and that's part of the game. And they do a really nice job of it with the growl towels.
So I would have gone nowhere in the marketing department.
Well, but hey, but part of half the battle is the ideas part, and you got that down.
You got to have the brainstorming session with idea people.
Yes, and that you have that
But
down.
eventually, idea guy is a little bit like potential guy.
Yes.
We got to see it manifest.
Yeah.
I mean, idea guy's got to. We got to get some results out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, potential guy gets a bunch of people fired.
Of course. I mean, potential's great, but it's got to turn into something.
I need points and rebounds.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You've got on great gear. I imagine that's Santa Claus gear.
Yeah,
great
this was a Christmas present. It's a. People who are just listening, if you're not watching, it is a baby blue hoodie with the kind of Memphis Sound script across the front.
Looks great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I remember it so well and very fond of it. It was the best of the three distinct ABA logos and kind of marketing scheme here and nickname, Pros, Tams, Sounds. Yep. And I think in the Grizzlies' heart of hearts, I mean, no need for anybody to be crushed over it, but I think if they had it to do all over again instead of now it all happened so fast, and the name the Grizzlies kind of got stuck with the team moving here. But I think they would like to have that Memphis Sounds look.
Yeah, I've loved both the when they brought back the throwback uniforms for the Sounds. This year's the ones they have, and then back when we had the Core 4 and they threw those out. I've loved both of them. I mean, they're really nice, and I'm with you. I mean, but then you get into the game of do it over again. A lot you could do then, but no, I mean, I think Sounds would have been a great.
But that looks good.
Great one. Oh yeah. No,
and last night for the 30th anniversary and the distinct look of the Vancouver Grizzlies. Yeah. I like it when we get that change of pace and we just go Beale Street blue and white to the Grizzlies.
Sure.
Look.
Yeah. And I mean, now you look at it, I mean, Grizzlies have a lot of uniforms to roll out. I mean, they have the regular home and away. They've got kind of the baby blue. They have the Sounds. They have the Vancouver Grizzlies. I mean, got a lot of jerseys to kind of toggle through.
Your parents would definitely remember this in 72, 73 when the Tigers went to the final game of the NCAA tournament, played and lost to UCLA. The home white uniform kind of below the kind of your heart on the left side, the uniform numbers were red.
Ah, yes, I've seen pictures of this.
And it was the one and only time that it ever had that look. And I asked someone, I think Matt Dillon may have told me this, and he would know, of why. And the outfitter, the designer, just made a mistake and shipped them to him, about 2 weeks before the season.
Oh, wow.
Like for photo day. And they said, we got to go with it. We can't reorder.
We don't have time to get new jerseys.
Kind of got stuck with that one and go to the final game with it.
Good luck, I guess.
But they've never been red in the Tigers color scheme.
Never. That's hilarious. I did not know the story, but I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah,
but I had no idea the backstory.
Did Road Blue was the number red that year? I don't remember.
I don't know. I know there were.
I'd have to look at some photos from in the day. But that white home uniform,
that's funny.
It's sure. I mean, you see it distinctly. And that's the uniforms they wore against UCLA. UCLA wore the powder blues.
Wow, that's funny. I did not know that backstory. Getting back to this game last night, the wild card matchup. Right, you said it yesterday. I hoped and wanted him to be better and have that good game, but Sam Darnold, in his own famous words, he was seeing ghosts out there last night.
He couldn't complete a screen pass.
No, it was a bad night. I was
he
talking.
He couldn't complete a screen pass.
No, Brett, I was talking to one of my friends last night, and I said, I think this was at halftime. I said, legitimately, half of the broadcast tonight has been clips, replays of guys, wide open receivers he's missed that he just hadn't even targeted.
It was very expensive too.
It was an expensive loss.
Speaking of kind of, I want to come up with a different name than Loserville. Tough Luck Towns.
There you go. I like that. Another great idea.
Scott Shapiro, I assume he pronounced that way, might be Shapiro, from Vice President, Fox Sports Radio, Premier Networks, iHeartRadio. He tweeted last night, most recent championships for each of the 4 sport metros.
Oh, wow.
So you have all the big 4
in
a big area. Los Angeles, 2024. Boston, 2024. Miami, 2024.
Yep.
Dallas, 23. Denver, 23. The Bay Area, 2022. D.C., 2019, the Nationals.
Yeah.
Philly, 2018. Chicago, 2016, the Cubs.
Yeah.
New York, 2012. New York,
wow.
2012.
Wow.
Detroit, 2008. Phoenix, that's not even Big 4 now, 2001. Minneapolis, 1991.
Holy cow.
That was Twinks.
Wow.
That was Twins over Braves.
No, that's we talked. What did we? I don't even remember what we were talking about yesterday. It's been a long time. If time keeps marching on, that's an eternity in the sports world.
124 combined seasons since any of the 4 major men's pro teams in Minnesota have reached the championship round. 91 Twins are the last one.
Wow. Yeah. Tough luck.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Buffalo, not Big 4. Really just big 2.
Yeah.
Never had Major League Baseball except for COVID when the Blue Jays had to land there because I won't hold that against Buffalo. They're close. It's a lot of futility for winning it all, Sabres and Bills.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a Bills-Lions Super Bowl.
Be fun.
And somebody
Be fun.
break the ice.
But, man, now that the wild card is officially behind us, all the conversation the rest of this week is going to be those 2 quarterbacks going up against each other with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I mean, that is what the storyline of storylines for this week is going to be.
Well, it is.
It sure is. It's a big one for both those guys.
And it will be fun to watch play out. And all the while, you got Patrick Mahomes. Are they toiling in anonymity? They're out there in a good spot.
Great spot.
Going for a three-peat in not obscurity, but they're not top of the fold right now in NFL news.
No, it's
quarterback
weird.
matchup is.
It is
the story of the Lions.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, they're kind of getting lost. I mean, Brett,
Andy Reid has to love.
Oh, it's the same. It was the same thing last year. You know, we got to the playoffs and it was like, oh, the Chiefs aren't as good as they've been in the past.
It'll catch up with
they're
them.
not going to run the table again. And what do? They go out and win the Super Bowl.
They could almost, and it's one of the worst cards played. They could play the respect card.
Yeah. And now you got Patrick Mahomes fully healthy. He missed a couple games with injury, and then you had the final week of the season they didn't play him, and so I mean he'll be super well rested.
Travis Kelce.
And, I mean I think
No, the other one.
No, you're right, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, the tight end.
But
Not Monday Night Football lineman.
Yeah, and late night on ESPN talk show host.
Is he?
Yeah,
I hadn't made it.
No, it's midnight on Fridays, but I don't think you're ever going to make it.
No shot.
Unfortunately, but I don't think you're missing much. I haven't tuned into it. I don't think you're missing much. I haven't heard many people talk about it.
If I'm out at midnight on Friday, I'm driving.
Yes. You're trying
to get home to get to bed.
Yes, that's right. But we'll talk more about last night's game. We'll also talk a lot more about the Grizzlies and their loss last night against the Houston Rockets. But let me set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, Matt Infield from Action News 5. He'll join us to talk Tigers. We'll talk a lot of Tiger basketball. We'll talk a little bit of Tiger football as well, but a ton to get into with Penny Hardaway's group as they're about to go on the road for back-to-back games Thursday night in Philadelphia against Temple, and then they'll head to Charlotte to play the 49ers. So we'll talk about both those games, what he saw in the most recent
All right,
game.
I always ask it. Will they go off and stay off?
That's a good question. I want to say
Has Dave talked about it?
I want to say I talked to Dave. He's going straight from Philly to Charlotte, but I want to say he said the team themselves are coming back and going there. But I do not quote me on that because I could be completely wrong.
And they've done it before, but it is and this is Thursday, Saturday. That's
Thursday, Sunday.
Oh, this is Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah.
They've gone off and stayed off for Thursday, Saturday before.
Yeah, so I would bet the team comes back and then heads out to Charlotte. But 2 road games, back-to-back road games, first time this conference slate for the Tigers. We'll talk about that with Matt Infield. 3:45, we'll get back into the Grizzlies conversation. Their loss again last night to the Houston Rockets, what we saw in that matchup. And moving forward, now back-to-back road games against San Antonio to finish the week. 4 o'clock, Brent Beard from First Coast News in Jacksonville. He'll join us to talk some college football. We got to recap the 2 semifinal games and talk about the national championship that will take place a week from yesterday. We'll get his pick, talk about some other news out of the college football world with him at 4 o'clock. 4:30, we'll talk some college basketball. A good slate tonight in the SEC, especially. We mentioned it, Ole Miss and Alabama should be a really good game. Some of those other ones that really stick out. We'll talk about those. We'll talk about what's going on in the world of college hoops. 4:45, we'll get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Bo Marchant will join us to talk the NFL. We'll go everything that happened in the wild card weekend, but also Cowboys now have a head coach opening. We'll get his thoughts on that. It'll be a shorter segment with Bo today, probably about 18 or so minutes with him, and then we'll get to an early crunch time before we get out of here for Ole Miss at Alabama pregame, which will start right here on Sports 56 at 5:30. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. It's the floor model sale. All 2024 inventory has to go. Help them make room for 2025. All floor models up to 50% off. Cold plunge tubs starting at $49.99. Hot tubs up to $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals included. Pool tables, arcades, ping pong tables, air hockey, foosball tables, all 20 to 60% off. And don't forget about theater seating, now up to 75% off. It's also not too early to start thinking about pool season. Buy now and get on the schedule for install before that pre-summertime rush. Head out to Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40.
Produced by Landon Schmidt, we are Sportstime. As Bryant said, we're with you till 5:30 today, and we would like for you to be a part of our show. I'm Brett, he's Bryant. Landon's producing. We want you to join us at 901-360-8255 at the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk line. All our guests will appear on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. Always in our Family Leisure Studio in this hour every day, brought to you by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on the 2025s and all the special leasing options that you always have available at the the one and only Lexus dealership in Memphis. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you will be looking and you'll be driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the safe luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day has got to be Wild Card Weekend coming to an end last night with the Rams, a big win over the Vikings, 27-9, the final score from Arizona. We forget, I think, the Rams and the way they started the season, 1-4 and completely lost. They had injuries. They weren't playing well. I think a lot of people said, well, you know, it just doesn't feel like that year that they're going to make the playoffs. But they bounced back really good down the stretch and then looked extremely well polished last night.
Familiar.
I mean, it sounds very familiar. That is absolutely right, Brett. But I think the big story last night was Sam Darnold. He's been one of the biggest stories of the year, being this journeyman, high draft pick. Everyone had the high expectations for him right out of college. He never met them. He bounces around, then finds a home in Minnesota, and because of injuries is the starting quarterback and plays really well throughout the season, except for these last two games. You look at these last two games against Detroit and LA. Darnold had only completed 53% of his passes, threw for 411 total yards, threw an interception, was sacked 11 times, which included the 9 sacks last night.
Hard.
Oh, it was
but he gets all the blame.
Awful, yes. And with 9 sacks, the blame can go around. It was the offensive line. He was holding the ball too long.
Nobody
on some
open.
of those. Nobody open. I mean, it was really a mess. And in both those games, his team only put up 9 points in each for 18 total points over the last 2 games. So production-wise, he just hasn't been there these last 2 games. Before that, he was awesome. We were talking about, could he get that big-time extension? Does Minnesota bring him back to continue that bridge before J.J. McCarthy?
Trade J.J. McCarthy.
Trade J.J. McCarthy was even out there. Does somebody else come in with a massive offer if Minnesota doesn't try to do something? And now it feels like all of that is out of the door, because really, who is going to go get that guy that has shown he can't do it in those big games and in the playoffs? And unfortunately, Sam Darnold showed that last night.
That's my top story, and Darian Newsom and I were texting with each other last night, and this was kind of the general theme of the text. We knew better.
Yeah.
We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We knew we couldn't trust him. And Sam Darnold ended up being Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
In a building, in a game on the road that felt like it was in the middle of downtown Minneapolis with Skull being chanted, and he just put a match to millions of dollars last night as well, and really good options. Last night was not him playing against the Titans or the Bears. This was a big-time matchup, and last week against Detroit was the same, and he was, Sam Darnold.
Yep.
No trading of J.J. McCarthy now. He was drafted for a reason.
Yep. Yeah, you're right, and the future starts now.
Not top story of the day.
J.J. McCarthy era, man, we'll see what it does in Minnesota. My not top story of the day, it's the Grizzlies and another loss to the Houston Rockets, who have really been a thorn in the Grizzlies' side this year. They've been great games, they've been fun games, and really the last 2 played out the exact same way. Back and forth all game long, back and forth, back and forth. Houston goes up, and then you have the late game situation where in both games, Houston, I think, did the right thing, fouled up 3, tried to force them to the line, and the Grizzlies really had no answer at that point. I did think, we talked last week after that Houston game about really not a great game for Zach Edey. He looked out of place a lot in that game.
Or for Taylor Jenkins.
Or really for Taylor Jenkins. I thought Zach Edey was a lot better against Alperen Sengun last night, who really gave him fits in the first game. Now, saying that, Houston did a really nice job, especially early, exploiting Zach Edey on the pick and rolls and trying to get him to switch off to one of those smaller, quicker guards. You saw Jalen Green blow past him a few times. Really, every single guard for Houston used that to try to exploit Zach Edey. It worked sometimes. It did not work at other times. But, I mean, it was a good game for the Grizzlies. I thought they played well for most of that game. Turnovers weren't as big of an issue as they've been in other games, but they were still there. And I like seeing the back and forth between Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bain. I mean, that was fun to see them kind of going back and forth. But I thought Santi Aldama said it best after the game, speaking to reporters. We just have a tough time with teams that are more physical than us. And we've seen it. We talked about it after the last game. Saw it again last night. Houston was a much more physical team, and it led to a win.
They smell blood.
They do.
They do, and they did. My not top story, if they don't do it, then both sides, they've been bluffing. Both sides have kind of been saying, the flowery quotes on the back of a book, scintillating, intriguing,
they're fantastic.
Spellbinding, or U.S. Senate floor talk. My good friend and dear colleague, the foremost expert on fill in the blank. Jerry Jones, for years, has been saying Deion Sanders was going to be a coaching superstar, a Leviathan. For years, Deion Sanders has been saying dream jobs, FSU, San Francisco 49ers, Cowboys. If they really think that about each other, and Jones should offer him, and I don't need to hear Deion Sanders go, no, I'm building a great thing at Colorado. You have two options to coach, Boulder or the star on the helmet.
Yeah.
Either side, whether it's Jones or Sanders, if they don't get together in this, both have been bluffing.
Now, that's a great point, because you're right. Both have shown great interest in each other.
Until it's time to get down to business.
And then like
Jerry Jones thought he was good enough, really big-footed Hunter Yurachek into interviewing him. Hunter Yurachek ended up hiring Sam Pittman instead of Deion Sanders.
Oh, man.
So now, here it is. Do it or it's a different word than bluffing. You've been lying to us.
It's
both sides.
Yeah, it's definitely showtime. Well, I'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to our first break. And when we come back, we're talking Tigers with Matt Infield.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its community and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, mainly 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
The system at Sunrise on Jefferson and Sunrise East on Poplar is perfect. First, you order at the counter from the huge menu, chock full of deliciousness. Wait, before you do that, just make sure your entire party is there. Then, get in line. Then, order at the counter from the huge menu of deliciousness. Then, grab a number and head to any table you'd like. I mean, as long as there aren't people already sitting there. Then, before you know it, the best breakfast or lunch you can't find anywhere but Sunrise will arrive, piping hot and fresh. Remember, you can only stay an hour at Sunrise because people refuse to leave.
The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even football tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer sitting? Family Leisure has beer sitting up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool season. You can buy it and get on the installation schedule and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items,
Good afternoon. An accident involving some injuries getting some attention right now on 40 eastbound at Canada Road. It's running a little bit slow out in that area as you head on out towards Fayette County as they mop up that accident. 40 eastbound at Canada Road as traffic tries to build certain sections of the Midtown area coming south on 240 here at South Parkway. Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your full-service, family-owned jewelry store here in Memphis. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure studios, and joining us now, talk some Tigers, Matt Infield from Action News 5. He joins us now. Matt, thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk some Tiger basketball. They get another win in conference play over the weekend over East Carolina, but it was another scary one. It was one that came down to the final minutes. They led by like 18 points in the first half.
That was ringside.
That's right. I mean, he was right there in the action, and then ultimately came down to the last minute of that game. What stuck out to you in that second half when East Carolina started making that comeback?
Yeah, I think that this team probably has a bit of a turnover problem, and that reared its head, especially in the second half. You think about it, they were up 14 at the half, and they were turning East Carolina over. You know, I talked to Michael Sports, the East Carolina head coach at halftime, and he said, we got to take care of the ball. And then they come out and start the second half, and they had probably, off the top of my head, 3 turnovers, turning the dumps right away. That got them right back in the game. And you know, from that point, once they were back into it, you know, East Carolina, even if they are not a team of Memphis caliber, we saw they have a couple of, you know, high-end players in R.J. Felton, T.J. Walker that, you know, can make an imprint on a game and, you know, can make things interesting. So, really, I think it's the turnovers that made it more of a game than what it should have been in the second half. And I'll say, my friend, your guy's friend as well, Dave Voloshin, he brought this up to me yesterday when we were taping the Penny Hardaway show, but there is one team in the top 25 with a negative turnover or assist-to-turnover ratio, and it is Memphis. So that's the number one thing that kind of sticks out to me. If they take care of the basketball better, I don't think that turns into the game that it did. But if that problem continues, then I think that one of these conference games could get away from them when it shouldn't.
Yeah, you could have that night where you have the turnovers and you have that team. It may not be in conference. It might be, you know, ultimately in the NCAA tournament where they have somebody that not shut down but can limit P.J. Haggerty more than these conference teams. But I say that, Matt, and they've played and defeated those teams. When I look at the AP poll and I see UConn and Michigan State in front of the Tigers, well, I haven't had amnesia. I hadn't been hit in the head. I watched those games. I know what Memphis can do against those teams. So bigger picture, I'm not that concerned. More narrow picture, kind of in the right now, I think Thursday night at Temple is what the Tigers need. They need to go on the road and get challenged.
Yeah, and, you know, this is a program that kind of quietly, I'm sure a lot of people have forgotten about it, but, you know, one of the more random conference championship games in recent memory, off the top of my head at least, but they were in the AAC championship game last year against UAB. And, again, obviously that's not necessarily a precursor for what's going to happen the season after because we see what UAB has done this year. But I think that Temple has at least turned it into a little bit of a boost momentum. Jamal Mashburn Jr., obviously the son of former, I believe, Jamal Mashburn Sr. made an NBA All-Star game. If not, he was a very good player at the very
Kentucky
least.
legend.
Yep, for sure. But he's like a 22-point per game guy, a really good player. So, and they're 10-6 right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's just walking on eggshells in every single one of these conference games, and it's the unfortunate reality, I said, of, you know, when you're in the position Memphis is in, it's great because you are clearly the top team of the conference and should be expected to win the conference both in the regular season and the tournament. But, I mean, it's just landmines one after the other, especially a week now where you're going on the road twice in 4 days. You know, it could be a little bit tricky, although I do agree with you. I think Temple is the one that I've got more so circled as potential, I hate the phrase trap game, but as a potential slip-up much more so than Charlotte. So I'm with you.
You mentioned C.J. Walker. I mean, a good player. Was a 5-star out of high school, went to Oregon, kind of bounced around. So, I mean, he's a talented player, but he was given Memphis's front court fits all night, finished with 23 points, 7 rebounds. I've heard some people raise their concerns about Memphis's front court in recent weeks. Do you share that concern? I mean, you look at that box score against East Carolina, Moussa Cisse and Nicholas Jourdain combining for 12 points and 9 rebounds. I've heard a lot of people kind of talking about those two guys in particular. What have you seen from the bigs?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of mixing and matching what combinations work against certain teams. I think we saw that against North Texas as well. The Mean Green's physicality kind of bothered those Memphis bigs as well, and that showed up, on the glass. I don't think Nick has played particularly well lately. I can't circle a game that it goes back to, but just watching the Tigers over, the way we all do, I don't think Nick has played his best ball for a little bit now, and I wonder if it's in his head a little bit. And I do think he has the kind of game where if he could simplify things and just kind of get back to doing the things that he does really well, being a glue guy, being a versatile defender, rebounding, running on transition, those sort of things, I think he'll be fine. But, you've got a big in Moussa Cisse who's got an argument as one of the best defensive players in the country. I think he called himself the best defensive player in the country earlier in the season. You've got a glue guy in Nick Jourdain. You kind of do a little bit of a lot of different things, but maybe isn't the most overly imposing physical presence in the world. And then you've got the Dancing Bears, they call him Dave Danger, who defensively maybe not going to bring as much as someone like a Moussa Cisse, but obviously could score the basketball, and it's kind of become a super six-man off the bench in that regard. So against a team with two really good bigs, like the Auburn game comes to mind with what Jedi Broom did to that, but there's no shame in that because Jedi Broom has done that to basically everyone this year. But that could be their undoing in trying to find a combination that can withstand that. So more than anything, though, I want to see Nick getting back to the player that we know he can be and just contributing and making winning plays. I don't think I've seen as much of that lately.
Matt, I swear I was going to ask you the profile of the team that could give the Tigers the most trouble in the NCAA tournament, and you did it. You said a team like with those bigs like Auburn. The good thing about that profile, there aren't many of those teams that exist.
Right, and we say it every year. I don't know. I'd be curious to go back and look at the last couple national championship teams and see how true it is, but I think the prevailing thought is what wins in March, and if you get there, April, is elite guard play. And clearly this team, especially on days where at least two of those guys are clicking, has some of the best guard play in the country. I think you can make an argument that on their best days, it is the best guard trio in the country. And I think that someone brought up this point, I think it's really good. PJ Haggerty gives you such a floor night in and night out. Because even on nights where the jumper isn't falling, he is just so prolific at getting to the free throw line. And my God, he's just ice water running through his veins, especially in those close late game situations. I'm sitting there on Saturday, I'm like, he's going to miss one of these free throws eventually. So 10-10, hit every clutch free throw. So having someone like that where it's almost like you can guarantee 10 easy points a night, just at how often he's going to get to the free throw line, it really is kind of a floor raiser for your team. And yeah, with Tyrese and Colby are clicking as well, they've got the guards to go up with anyone in the country. And that typically, conventional wisdom is that's a winning formula in March. So you got to feel good about that.
Now, the last big scoring game for Colby Rogers was the route the Tigers administered against Ole Miss. It's been less production since that, but that was a big game. That was the Colby Rogers game. Matt, around here, you've been here long enough, and you know with Tiger basketball, you get there's a lot of experts around town that want to tell you things, text you things, hit you with information. And this is the first time I can remember, maybe since Coach Hardaway's first year, that I'm not getting from anyone, good source, bad source, anything, credible, reliable, I'm not getting any chemistry issue stuff. Does that seem to be accurate in the Tiger world to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I actually literally had that thought this morning, that this team, and, it's really easy to say, I guess, in press conferences and whatnot, oh, they love each other, they get along so well, blah, blah, blah. I think this team has the best vibes of any of the three that I've been around. And the 22 team did as well, but I think this team is a little more together than those ones. And
I did till it didn't on in the bench area up in the tournament.
Right. Until some of them showed up in Columbus. And there were some guys obviously on that team that maybe contributed to some of the chemistry issues on last year's team. I can certainly tell you that it definitely feels like the best vibe that I've been around this team. And I've now sat down with I think 4 of these guys for the Petty Hardaway show. Man, these are all just like really solid, cool dudes that are like about the right stuff, and you can tell that they're easy to get along with and easy to talk to, and you can kind of see how they mesh together. And I think that kind of the build of the team. You know, you've got your kind of unquestioned leader. I think is Tyrese Hunter, who is serious and competitive, but also not condescending. Like, you talk to Tyrese. Tyrese is a great guy, and at the start of the team, PJ Haggerty is about the most laid-back, calm, cool, collected guy you'll ever meet. And sometimes maybe you want him to be a little bit more rah-rah, but at the same time, it's easy to see why teammates gravitate to a guy like that. And then Colby's great. I sat down with Danny Danger yesterday, really cool guy. So yeah, I think the collection of personalities and character on this year's team is as good as I've seen it for sure.
Yeah. Another guy that is kind of slid in there, we've seen in recent years, you had a player midseason and maybe could cause issues. I know last year a lot of people wanted to say Naquan was the reason with those issues, which I never really bought. But Dante Harris.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I'm with you. I think that Naquan, I think if Naquan Tomlin did not come last year, that ship would have gone.
Oh, man.
That ship would have sunk a lot faster.
No
go ahead, though.
But this year they had Dante Harris mid-year, and he has just come in and has played his role and has played it really well. You see him still kind of feel like he's still trying to get completely comfortable, but you look at that box score on Saturday against East Carolina, and it's 2 points on 2 shot attempts, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals. He's coming in and being a really nice piece off the bench for the Tigers.
Yeah, and I think that what he did on Saturday, too, was when he was in the game, a lot of times, sometimes you need a point guard to kind of set a pace of the game. And I think he did that really, really well. He knew when to push. He knew when to kind of slow things down in the half court. But you saw some of the passing chops. I'm thinking of the fastball he fired into Musa Cisse early in the game for a 2-handed slam. I know Petty is very high on him defensively as well. And, yeah, I mean, that's what and to be honest, that kind of player is one that is really easy to get acclimated into a team even when he's new. He doesn't need a ton of shots. He's going to handle the ball. He's going to get guys set up, distribute it. He's going to play defense. And I think that, he did a really nice job of that. I was kind of thinking on Saturday, it was like, it would be nice to see him score the ball, and he had a nice little, I think he got to the lane and hit like a little floater or something like that. So, yeah, it's good to see that he can do that, but more than anything, I'm with you. Just kind of come in, be that steadying point guard off the bench, let the star players eat, and play defense. And yeah, I think that that's going to be a valuable addition, especially down the road.
Matt, wouldn't you imagine? Wouldn't you probably suppose that Coach Hardaway, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for this, he laid out clear cut to him. This is your role. This is what we expect before he ever came here. Don't come here talking minutes and shots. This is what I want you to do. I think Coach Hardaway should be applauded.
Yeah, I think he did that with a lot of these guys this year, if not the entire roster, just in terms of if you don't care about defense or if your ability to impact the game defensively is going to be negatively impacted by whether the ball's going in the basket or not on the offensive end, then this probably isn't the team for you. So, yeah, I think just in general, he's had that vision for the entire team, and finding someone in the portal mid-season that can come in and kind of seamlessly fill that role and is legitimately cool with not getting a ton of shots and just kind of being a ball handler and playing defense. Yeah, but good find for him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, fun stuff, guys. Talk next week, all right?
Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Matt Infield with us, talking Tigers from Action News 5, as he has been all year since August, talking predominantly football during the fall, and now Tiger basketball. All these roles in any job, Brian, in anything in life, it's best to have it defined to you what the expectations are beforehand.
Yeah, and it feels like that was a good point by you because it really feels like I think we could go down the list of different guys, and it feels like he sat down with these guys before they even came and committed to Memphis. Of look, if you come here, these are your roles. This is what you're going to do. We talked a lot earlier in the season about Musa. It feels like watching Musa this year
More than he's ever had to define.
Yes, it feels like he has that defined role, and Penny Hardaway made that very clear to him, and it's working.
And I have said it. I'm going to say I first got on this tangent at the end of year 2 of Penny Hardaway. This college basketball thing now, over what he signed up for,
oh man,
it couldn't be more different.
No, not at all.
And it is best with all these players and agents and parents and people that really care about them.
Sure.
They're all dreaming of a lot out of basketball. You better tell them on the front end because it's not like when he played and Coach Finch could get into him.
Right.
Could
Very
get
different.
into Penny Hardaway and would.
Oh, yeah. Not very different.
I mean, now you almost have to be like the UN ambassador.
Yeah, no, you got to be very careful with what you do. Speaking of the changing world, I don't know if you saw this. Parthu Pajai, who does a great job over at the Daily Memphian, wrote a story yesterday about PJ Haggerty becoming a brand ambassador for a new NIL app, and it kind of talks about him and this partnership with this My NIL Pay app. But it also said in the story, and I had no idea about this, On3, which is kind of turning into a 247 or Rivals, they do NIL valuations for every player. Right now, On3 NIL valuation of PJ Haggerty is $1.7 million, which makes him number 6 among all NCAA men's basketball players and number 36 among all college athletes in the NCAA right now.
But that doesn't mean he's getting
Correct. That is his valuation of his type players. It does sometimes if they can get information about what a player has and maybe with him partnering
Great
with
for
this,
him.
they have better opportunity to get that. Great for him, and think about how that can rise if he returns next year. Obviously has eligibility left. I think we'll be in college basketball next year, but certainly if he comes back to Memphis, I mean, you could be talking about a top 3 guy in college
if you think
basketball.
Trent Dilfer's mad now.
Oh, Brett. Oh, man.
Did he?
What was that today?
That was foolishness.
And then John Summerall kind of jumping in
I don't
and
blame
spiking the ball. I thought it was hilarious. So that was weird.
Memphis and Tulane and
It was South Florida.
That's the best collectives in the American.
Yep, and everybody knows it, and that list of coaches complaining about it.
Strong survive.
It gets longer.
I don't
and longer.
mind it.
No. It was, if you didn't see that, go on Twitter and just search
Look,
Trent Dilfer.
Everybody in every walk of life deserves an equal shot. Equal is different than sameness.
Yeah.
Everybody can't be the same. We all can't live.
No.
We all don't live in Naples, Florida.
Unfortunately.
We don't. We all don't drive Bentleys. Very few can. The myth of sameness drives me crazy. It can't be. No walk of life, everybody can be the same.
No.
But you can have the same opportunity, and we all do.
Certainly. And so, that was weird today on radio. It was on Jocks. It was our friends down at Jocks. It's on their station. He went in on the...
I can't believe he made it past this year.
One of the biggest surprises of 2024 was that he kept his job after last year. Well, let's go ahead and get to another break. When we come back, we got to talk about the Grizzlies. Another loss for them against the Houston Rockets. Third loss on the year against Houston. We'll talk about that next on Sports Time.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Ken Garland, you are in your 72nd year of business. Your son William is now joining you. What do you think is the key to your longevity in the building business?
My dad started the business in 1965, and I think being on the job sites daily and being accessible to homeowners has been a key to our success.
You guys have a work ethic, as you like to say. You're not hiring people to be on the site. You guys are there every day.
We interact with the subcontractors multiple times a day on each job site. I think that has been a key, as well as using the same subcontractors 20 plus years in most cases.
When you talk about materials, what is the first thing you're thinking about when somebody comes to you to build a home?
We're just trying to meet the expectations of the client and the homeowner and the architect and give them what their dream is.
When you get a Ken Garland home, what do you guarantee?
We'll be there after the job is finished. We're still accessible to all our clients.
Now I need to know, how do I get a hold of Ken Garland?
You can reach us at kengarland.com.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
Now, Sports Time. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Service. Here are your hosts, Sports
Well, the Grizzlies were down in Houston last night for another matchup against the Rockets. Very weird. The last time we'll see the Houston Rockets will be in just a couple weeks. On January 30th will be the fourth and final time Memphis and Houston play each other. Unfortunately for the Grizzlies, and it could come, we always talk about seeding games, and this is going to matter at the end of the year when it comes to postseason and seeding. This really could come into play because now the Grizzlies look up last night following a 120-118 loss against the Rockets, and they're now 0-3 against this Houston team this year.
I'm ready to be done with them until we may see them. Like yesterday, we were talking about who we want in the playoffs. Remember a few years ago when I wanted the Lakers?
Oh, that's right. Having that same feeling about the Rockets?
Not as much.
They don't have LeBron on
I still think I want them, and I still think I want them after whatever happens at deadline, whether it's Gigi and Vince back or a deal.
Yeah, no, and that's, I loved what DeMichael said yesterday.
But as it stands right now, it's not a great matchup, it doesn't look like.
No, I mean, it's a fun team, and they've got some quick, really talented guards.
But I've seen those cases where a team maybe went 3-1 or even 4-0 regular season, and at playoffs it's different.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I mean, they have a couple of veterans, obviously, that have that playoff experience, but most of their stars don't have that playoff experience.
Really young.
And
I would like to know who would have the younger roster, Rockets or Grizzlies.
It's a good question.
Because both,
I don't know, both very young. But I would maybe lean. I don't know. I mean, once you get Dylan Brooks in there and Steven Adams,
right?
And, even Fred VanVleet feels like he's now been in the league for a while. I mean,
well, he has.
He has, which is hard to believe. But Dave was talking earlier. Remember him at Wichita State? I was like, holy cow, you're right. That was a long time ago.
Who got custody of Baker at Wichita State when it was VanVleet and Baker?
It's great. It's a great question. I don't know. He was a good player too. But no, I mean last night.
That was Greg Marshall's.
Yeah,
Final
it was.
Four team.
No, that was a really talented team. But no, last night, I mean, it was it was just a team that came out and look, Houston knocked down shots. They shot, made 16 3-pointers, made 51%.
VanVleet was in the middle of the Toronto championship run.
He was. He was a huge part of that.
That was in 2019, so that's how long.
I was about to say that's been time is marching on from that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean this is good. This is a good Rockets team that they faced last night.
And we talked about it last week. What a win! What fortune to get MA.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, you can't forget. I mean, he was on his way to absolute stardom.
Everything Missoula's getting
in Boston. You're absolutely right, and it was not bad coaching that lost him his job.
Injured himself.
He did, but now found his spot at Houston, and Houston certainly
Thanks.
benefiting
Even the
from it.
coaches come west.
That's right. Yes. It's not just the players.
Every free
anymore.
agent, every
Yes.
and a NBA executive that on draft lottery night said, "Of course, Wembanyama ends up west,
Of course.
and of course he ends up in San Antonio
yes.
when they're at the end of their dynasty."
That's right. Yeah, it's like the worst possible thing
Yeah.
to happen. Don't look now. Spurs playing good basketball. They beat the Lakers
They
last
are.
night. They're
And
playing
he
well,
is.
and now the Grizzlies get to see him back-to-back games.
And
So.
he could be the biggest thing we've ever seen in 4 or 5 years.
No, he really could be. I mean, he's on his way, and everyone's watching. Everyone likes to watch. He's a really good figure to be that size. I mean, he has a good character that he kind of plays into of being the long Frenchman. And he's fun.
Has he accomplished the out-of-town star you buy tickets to go see?
I think so.
Getting close.
I think certainly getting close if he's not there. But he is. I mean, that's one where if Spurs are in town, I'd go see Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately. But I mean, the Rockets. Watching last night and watching last week, Jalen Green. It's kind of maybe taking him some time. He's a superstar. I mean, he
got it
really
last
good.
night.
He did. He was awesome last night.
It was his night.
It sure was. It was a rough game for the Grizzlies, but it came down just like it
Right
did.
there to be won.
Yeah, ended up losing by 2. You had that same end of game type of situation.
We've talked a lot through the years since the Grizzlies have been here. Now, 24-year run.
Mm-hmm.
How would we handle both being successful? Well, aren't they both successful this year?
Yeah, no, both playing really well, and it looks like both gonna get to their type of playoff. Obviously March Madness for college and the playoffs for the NBA. It looks like they're both gonna get there, and I mean that will be really, really fun in the spring. And so I think we'll see who can go further. That will be definitely big. But now, like we mentioned, the Grizzlies, they turn around 2 road games in San Antonio against the Spurs before returning to Memphis on Monday against the Timberwolves for that Martin Luther King Day game. So some good stuff coming up for the Grizzlies. But let's go ahead and get to a break, wrap up this hour, and when we come back, we're talking college football with Brent Beard.
High-energy, full-body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rowers, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. 901-673-1267.
Sometimes you just want to make fast, like the unintentional quick and nimble 2024 Honda CB500F. This amazing style stabilizer to narrow 471cc twin, along with sweet Japanese blade, dual disc front brakes, and standard ABS. All made for products. Find phone all-wide Lexus 2024 Honda CB500F. Available at DeSoto Honda, 5656 Wheeler Road, Olive Branch.
What a great time of year. Football, basketball, baseball, golf, and home sales. Home sales? This is Sheldon Rosengard from Boss Ben Source Realtors. Why did I throw in home sales at this time of year? Because I have sold homes on the day before Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Day. Whether it's someone transferring in through a relocation network or someone just starting their home search, homes sell all year long, just like my golf game being banned all year long. I may be called Mr. Three-Putt, but at least I'm consistent. If you or someone you know is thinking of selling, make sure and talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers, but make sure I'm one of them. Find out how my highly successful strategic marketing program can get the winning score you need. Call me and find out why people often say when you want the job done, call Shell Done. 483-0546 or memphisrelocate.com. Go for that goal and call me, Shell Dunn, at 483-0546 or memphisrelocate.com.
Online radio show is back on WHBQ Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Every Monday night at 6, hear the latest news on your Ole Miss Rebels with Nancy Porter with 24/7 Sports. Former Ole Miss defensive tackle Mike Fitzsimmons, Gordon Moore covering SEC sports ball, and former Ole Miss baseball announcer Gary Garvey. From kickoff to free throw to extra innings, your Ole Miss sports on the Rebel Yell Hotline Show. Right here Monday night at 6 on Sports 56, 560 AM and 98.5 FM. Your Mid-South Sports Station.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. It's picking up quite a bit. Certain sections through the Midtown area, especially I-40 over here going westbound, right at Danny Thomas as you come across the I-40 bridge over into West Memphis. As you travel out through Arkansas this afternoon, watch for a little bit of radar on I-40 headed out towards Forest City. Hey, make a difference by adopting a pet today at the Humane Society of Memphis, Shelby County. Check out the animals right now that are up for adoption. Log on to their website at memphishumane.org. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis, with Dave Wilson, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. College football talk every Tuesday with Brent Beard, Heisman voter, and on Twitter X at Brent Beard. SEC, ACC, AAC, we talk it all with Brent. Here's Brent Beard with Brian and Brent.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. We're getting ready to talk some college football with Brent and Beard. And believe it or not, it's time to start talking about the national championship game. We have the semifinals behind us. Counting down less than a week now until this national championship game. And you look at these two teams. And, both, I think, at times, I know at times have been questioned of how good they really are. Ohio State at the very end of the year after that loss to Michigan, and then on the other side, Notre Dame after that loss against Northern Illinois. And yes, and now both teams here in the national championship game. Brent Beard from First Coast News down in Florida joins us to talk some college football. Brent, let's go back to the semifinal games, and let's go to the lone SEC team that was standing in the semis. It was Texas, their game against Ohio State. It felt like they were right there, and then at the end of that game, you had the scoop and score that really closed the door for Ohio State. What did you make of Texas's performance in that semifinal game?
Well, I mean, they hung in. The problem was, and I'm sure Sarkisian has still haunted by that call that obviously caused the scoop and score. I don't quite understand why you don't. I mean, the closest distance between 2 points is straight line. When you've got that kind of lateral movement with a team like Ohio State, you're really not going to be able to get the corner on them.
When you try to go wide, you're done.
You are, and you just got to understand that. And I mean, he probably knows better than that, but he really thought he could get something done with it, but they just weren't able to do it. So and they took advantage of it. But look, still, Texas had a pretty good year. I mean, they are. We've been talking several years now. Is Texas back? Well, I would certainly say Texas is back before I would Miami is back, or some of these other teams. That they still have a little ways to go, but I mean they made the playoff, and they
went to the SEC championship game.
They did well for themselves, so they certainly have nothing to be ashamed of. I believe Blue, their running back, is going pro. So is Kelvin Banks Jr.
Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, and Bond is too. So you're just going to lose some guys. But frankly, Texas in their first year to be in the conference did about as well as they could.
I agree, Brent, and we have discussed that here, that Texas, they were SEC ready. Oklahoma was not.
Goodness, no. By no stretch of the imagination, Oklahoma's got a real problem at this point at quarterback. They've got a real problem, obviously, offensively. So they have a long, long way to go.
You know what that leads to? Problems with the head coach.
Yeah, and they, there are times, Brent, one thing that Brett and I have talked about for years is, are you a fit? And I like Venables. He did a great job at Clemson. I'm not saying he's a bad head coach, but Brent, I don't know if he's the fit there that they really need.
I can't get the Navy Bowl game out of my mind.
Yeah.
It was. I know it was a lot of backups.
Yes.
I know the whole motivation issue, but I also know how they started in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I can't unsee that, and it cemented to me. And you and I talked about this at the Gator Bowl together. It cemented to me. This is why so many people and ADs through the years passed on him.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And look, I wish him well. I hope it works. If not there, somewhere else. But sometimes you are just who you are, and you're a better coordinator than you're a head coach. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And his predecessor's not doing anything great shakes at USC.
No.
We're going to be having the USC back conversation one of these years.
Yeah, and that's going to be a while yet. Still, they and I still say until Riley understands that you've got to have a real defense on a consistent basis. There's only so far they're going.
Think of the role USC played ultimately in the college football playoff.
No doubt.
They took Penn State to overtime, had that game. That mixed up Penn State to where one of those 3-loss SEC teams may have gotten in over that 2-loss Big Ten team. May not. And also the 2 pick sixes against Notre Dame, length of the field, returned interceptions.
They could have a real impact, but it just did not happen with them.
And by the way, beating LSU opening day.
Yes.
Or weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really unfortunate that it didn't happen. So, but that's still a school that I think they're a long way away. I really do. I think they're just going to be 7-5, maybe an 8-4.
I agree. Who's farther away, OU or USC?
Jeez.
Pretty equal.
Yeah, they really are.
They're another area code from being involved.
Yeah, easily.
Next Monday night, when the confetti falls for whatever team that wins it all, Notre Dame or Ohio State, that will be resolution, won't it? We will look to them as this year's champion. There's not anybody out there that can really claim, hey, what about us, is it?
No, I don't think so. Now.
We got it right then, didn't we?
They've stood the test of time. They made their way through the playoff. I mean, I get the argument, too. Notre Dame could have played a tougher schedule.
But they couldn't help FSU was awful.
No, and that would have made a difference, too. But, yeah, at this point, these are the two teams who are playing the best and who are left. So they deserve the accolades for what they have accomplished. I don't know how good a game it's going to be. I hope it is. Frankly, Notre Dame has a lot going for it, but they just cannot get behind by a couple of touchdowns and have to chase points the whole game.
No, they can't have a repeat of their national championship performance against Alabama, where they were knocked out before the first TV timeout.
They truly were, and it was people can criticize Brian Kelly, but his assessment at halftime, or maybe the beginning of the third quarter, was about as simple and basic as anything I've seen. But look, I was there. I remember it well, and talking to other media. I mean, I'm being facetious, but I'm really not. But basically, anybody who was there would tell you, because Bryant, sometimes you can see these things. That game was over in warm-ups.
It was, and when I first thought that it was going to be a blowout, that was on a Monday night. Ole Miss, that was in 2012. That was Hugh Freeze's first year at Ole Miss, and we went to the Birmingham Bowl, just happy as all get out to be going bowling after being so bad, and played Pitt. And Brent, that year, late in the year, Pitt really should have beat Notre Dame. And when I got to the Birmingham Bowl and I saw that Pitt team that Ole Miss handled easily, I swear, driving home that Saturday afternoon, I said it's going to be a blowout Monday night of Bama over Notre Dame. If that team could stay close, they're not much.
No.
But this is a different Notre Dame team this year.
It is. I think the thing that's been as impressive as anything is the fact of all these incredible injuries that they've overcome. And when we talk about stepping up and next man up and all that stuff, but that has been so impressive. And really the thing that's going to help Notre Dame as much as anything is leading the nation in takeaways with over 30. They only give up 14 points a game. Ohio State gives up 11, which is just amazing in this day and age with offenses. But I mean, guys, this is another lesson learned here. Is I don't care who we are and who ends up in the title game. That oftentimes the two best defenses will end up there, and that's basically what we've got if you're going by points per game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. Going back to Texas for a second, Brent, it feels like the Arch Manning era begins now down in Austin. What do you think that will look like? Because I know a lot of people have been saying, why isn't Texas playing him? Texas should just throw him out there. And Brett and I have talked about, and Brett's pointed out a lot of times that, hey, this got to be Sark saying something. If he's not out there in some of these situations, he's not ready for it yet. What do you think next year will look like with Arch as the starting quarterback?
Well, I defer to Brent on that. He knows the family, and I think that family trait of patience and biding their time. Look, he knows he's good.
Mm-hmm. They know he's good.
There's no way around
he's going
that.
to be good.
Oh yeah,
he just may not be right now.
But there are just times where, and look, he could have made a fuss, and he could have gone somewhere else. And all that, I appreciate what he's done. He hadn't made a fuss. He's been positive with this, and
did a good job as spot reliever.
Absolutely. So, and look, I'm really wondering why Sark didn't put Arch in as big as he is when they were at the goal line last week.
And you got to remember those two famous uncles at the same time in their college football careers. Eli sat and watched the entire 99 season knowing going to redshirt. No scenario you're going in. Well, Arch played a little bit last year, not a lot. Didn't blow any eligibility, and I don't even know who has eligibility anymore. And then that second year, Eli sat behind Romero Miller. And now Peyton at Tennessee, he got thrown in there in 94 when all those quarterbacks got hurt. But they were going to play the patient game with him that year as – I don't want to call him a third stringer, but Colquitt was the starter and Todd Helton was second, so I guess that makes you third.
Yeah.
And then everything happened, and he got thrown in there, and he was really good, and took a team to a Gator Bowl, and the rest was history. Now, but that was Peyton Manning. That's quarterback robot.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And I think he'll be very good next year. You make an argument. We don't know this, he'll certainly be in the upper echelon of the quarterbacks in the league.
First start at Columbus.
Yeah, you know what, that's exactly right. He really does. So
you want just some big-time college football. There it is.
Yeah. Well, talk about starting it and getting your baptism immediately, but no, I think he won't get credit for this, but I think he has been a model player as far as biding his time and getting ready for what's going to be, and it will be brief, but I think he'll end up in the NFL and he'll be fine. But he and the family have handled this well.
Well, they're team first, the whole group of them.
They are.
It's team first. Brent Beard, our guest, with us on our Sissy's Log Cabin guest line talking college football. So we all knew forever, the SEC world coaching, it went through Coach Nick Saban. We have said it goes through Kirby. Does it, Brent? Does all roads go through Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldog program right now?
Well, I think people are still looking at them, and obviously with what they did in the championship game helps them. So I'm going to say probably at the moment
but the road's not as wide as we thought it was.
No, by no stretch of imagination. And Kirby would say the same thing. Kirby said the whole year, and he saw some of this, that these elite teams, Georgia and Alabama and the others, you've got a great front line, but the problem is if you start having injuries, a lot of this depth is gone somewhere else with guys who are waiting their turn to be stars at some of these other schools. So to your point, I still think it goes through Georgia, but the reality is there's enough doubt there. I mean, it's not like they don't have players, but there's enough doubt there that people, and when we're in Atlanta, that would be interesting. May think the door's open for someone else to crawl in there.
Yeah, one time that road was like as wide as the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
Yes.
And now it's as narrow as Rose Lane in Far City. That's where I live.
Yeah, I understand. That's a good analogy.
You can't go through there in a double wide.
No.
That's funny. Talking about going back to quarterbacks for a second, the big news last week that Carson Beck is not going to go to the NFL draft. He's going to transfer. He's committed to Miami. What do you think of that fit and him being a Hurricane next year?
Well, that's a big deal down here, as you can imagine. I mean, he's from Jacksonville. His family's here. He played at Mandarin High School. Now, he's been criticized for this, but I will give him credit. I mean, he spent 5 years at Georgia.
Yeah.
It's not like he was there a year and
He
left.
gave him good years.
Mm-hmm. He really did. I mean, he was 24-3, and when you're 24-3, I think you get the prerogative to do whatever you want to do. Now, he's got a girlfriend down there, and I get that. She's on the basketball team at Miami, and they recruited him hard. And there are just times, guys, and we all three have seen it, where it's time to go.
Yeah, and you pop up the bank account and $4 million's wired in.
Well, it is. Now, my understanding is from some Georgia beat writers that he didn't get paid that much more than what he got at Georgia. But still, that's good money. We won't turn it down. But my concern for him is a lot of these guys. Obviously, Cam Ward is gone. A lot of that offensive line comes back. Martinez, a running back, gone. Xavier Restapro is gone at wide receiver, who set records. Another one of the receivers ended up going to Alabama, the Horton kid. So, I mean, there are a lot of guys to replace with this. And I understand there was a little bit of, how would you describe this? I think Beck, being hurt, showed up for the bowl late. I mean, he wasn't around that much, but at the same time, again, after you've been there that long a period of time and you want to move on, I don't see there's anything wrong with that. And frankly, guys, I think Georgia had gotten the point too, where they like Gunnar Stockton and what he brings to them and how he fits in there. and sometimes it's kind of the media may not say this, but I think it was more of a mutual time to go for both of them than they realized.
And you get to that point in a lot of things that it's just better for everybody to move along.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and hopefully he'll be fine down there once he recovers. But the reality is, my concern for him is, I mean, guys, we've seen this every year. I like Mario; he's a good recruiter, but there are one or two inexplicable losses in Coral Gabriel's every year.
Really ugly. Almost have to try to lose like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like the Georgia Tech losses and what they've gone through with some of that. So no, it's not pretty.
Dan Lanning, another coach, kind of out of the Coach Saban, tree at Alabama, came up through there and had great years here in Memphis as well. We were wondering, are they super team, and they ended up not being super team. Going into next year, does Oregon, are they in that summertime conversation of most talented rosters again?
Probably. Oh yeah, I think as long as Lanning is there, unless he goes to the NFL, I mean he is the shiny object right now of everybody's attention, one way or another. I mean, Ryan Day is, I think, helping himself, obviously immensely, and Marcus Freeman is too. My Lord, I get the NFL stuff, but I don't know if you want to go to the Bears with that.
I don't know that you want to work for Kevin Warren.
Thank you. Yes. I would agree with that totally.
Mm-hmm. It feels like, and we kind of talked about it throughout the year and even when their season was over, but this is going to be a big season next year for Auburn. And with Hugh Freeze and the job he's done, it's felt like wait till this recruiting class comes in. Look at these guys that he's bringing in. But you look at the results on the field, and they haven't really been there. It feels like in the state of Alabama, we were talking about Alabama just a couple minutes ago, and what a big year this could be for that new coaching staff. Feels like the same down in Auburn of maybe a make-or-break season for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Yeah. And look, they're not bubbling over in enthusiasm right now with that fan base. I can assure you that. Now, they feel they've got some really good transfers. I'm still not sure they're where they want to be at quarterback. The younger kid who's coming in from high school may be their best bet. In the long run, I think their defense last year was very good. I think they've done what they got 2 tackles from the portal, which they desperately needed along that time too. Jarquez Hunter is gone. That's tough for them. I just tell you guys that number one, and I'm pretty big on body language. I'm really not sure he wants to be there, and particularly for the long run. And two, I'm just not sure that they are where they want to be, and that they won't have another difficult year on the field.
Yeah, it feels like a big one, certainly down for Hugh Freeze. Well, Brent, last thing for you. Give us the official prediction. Who is crowned the national champion next Monday?
A new national championship head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, guys, I'm like a lot of people. It's hard to imagine the way Ohio State's been playing that they don't win the game. But I mean, I'm not saying they're lucky. That's not what I want to say. But they've had some incredibly good fortune. It wouldn't shock me at all if Notre Dame ended up somehow winning the game, but they would have to play the game in a phone booth.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Ohio State allows them to do that.
Yeah, Notre Dame wants it. 14-13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I'm torn on who I'm for. I don't hate either one. I'm not anti either one. I'd be for an SEC team against anyone. But in this game, I'm just going to watch and enjoy it. And I really like Marcus Freeman, but I don't dislike Ryan Day. I don't know him at all.
I mean, I'm kind of like that. I'm just kind of neutral. with it. I mean, I do think that I like the 12 team. I mean, it's going to 16 or 14 in a couple of years. I don't like everything about it. There's some things that need to be tweaked.
I wish it'd go to 8.
Well,
but it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's because of MONEY that it will never go backwards.
Yeah, because
right?
there's just not enough money in college sports. We got to get more, Brent.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, just everybody. I mean, we got every analyst making X, so they got to make more.
No, yeah, there's no doubt about it. And by the way, I'm just going to mention this real quick that that our friend Phil Steele over the last few days sent out to say that he's about less than 150 days away from putting the next magazine
Phil never
out.
sleeps, does he?
I appreciated that greatly.
Man,
and look, on a solemn note, I appreciate Bill McCartney at Colorado. He died at 84 a few days
Good
ago.
for you mentioning him.
Really incredible man in what he did and founding Promise Keeper. And
Colorado hadn't won since he left.
That really haven't won that title in 1990. So
had some teams.
Right, no doubt about it. And listen, our friend down here, I know this is more local, but the name Jay Solomon, who is the play-by-play for JU basketball, we remembered him over the weekend. He died 27 years ago. And look, when you've got people in your life who basically got you started in the industry, you never forget them. And I was green as grass, and he gave me a chance to talk, and that meant a lot to me. Did it to a lot of people. With the same JU had great games. When Gene Bartow was at UAB, they had a huge rivalry in basketball. As a matter of fact, Jay, before he came to Jacksonville, was actually the play-by-play for the Miami Hurricanes for a short period of time. That was a lifetime ago, but we don't forget people who've helped us.
That was a much different radio row at SEC Media Days back then, wasn't it, Brent?
It was night and day, wasn't it, Brett?
You could talk loud enough that you could go out over their airwaves.
That's really funny. That's really funny, but that's true.
You have to tell David Lamb, quiet down. You're going out over there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Time has certainly changed.
Thank you, Brent.
Those SEC Media Days.
Pleasure,
Thanks, Brent.
guys. Take care.
You got it, man.
Brent Beard joining us like he does every week to talk college football from First Coast News down in Jacksonville. Always a good time with him. And he and I think a lot of people think it will be Ohio State that has that crown.
Who you for next Monday? I'm only going to ask you that probably every day. Landon, who you for next Monday?
Yeah, Landon, you go first.
When I say I don't care, I don't mean it. I don't mean it militantly. I just have no preference. I'm going to watch every play.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a very intriguing game, but I just feel like with how good Ohio State's been playing, they come out on top over Notre Dame. So I'm leaning Ohio State.
I think I'm pulling for Notre Dame, but thinking Ohio State's going to win. But I think I want to wake up the echoes. I want Notre Dame to be insufferable. I think it's good for the sport.
Yeah, I'm split. One of my best friends is a big Ohio State fan, so I'd love for him to win it. But at the same time, I would love nothing more than next Tuesday to come in here and crown Northern Illinois as the national champion.
Would you do that?
I absolutely would. I mean, they beat
Hang
them.
a banner?
Yeah. They won.
Here's something I want from Notre Dame that's kind of – you get the feeling from them. I told you about the 1 year at the Masters right after Clemson won it. They bought out everything that had national championship logo on it. They had everything you can think of on it that year at the Masters. Georgia did it. Alabama's done it. Well, Notre Dame hadn't done it in the heavy merchandising, marketing era, and they've kind of sniffed at all you Southern teams that go out and buy all that championship gear. They're going to buy everything.
Everything.
Can be printed.
That's another thing. I would love to see that because you're right. They have
and should. To the victor go the spoils.
No, I mean it'll be a lot of fun whichever team wins to see that.
Louis Leopold Holtz and Maurice Leon Freeman.
Yes, that's right.
I'd be happy for him.
I would too. No, I'm excited, and I'm kind of like
Marcus Leon Freeman
as somebody who's just watching. I don't really know if I have a preference one way or the other. I'm just hoping for a great national championship game, and hopefully we get that next Monday. Let's go ahead and get to another break, and when we come back, we'll talk some college basketball.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair. Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/rent for details. Ends 2/1.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Vargas. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous?
Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in the 32-ounce jar. It's so good to base or marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or at our house has been a Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from the Mediterranean diet or steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meat. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper is more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with a perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family affair is still going strong since 1948. Rendezvous.
Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 once again. Brett Roserly and Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you, and we got to talk some college basketball. And you look, it is a really good Tuesday slate, especially with these SEC games.
John Hart and I were talking about it earlier. Tonight is one of those nights that, look, I've been into basketball since opening night, way back on November 4th. But tonight is one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest conference matchup guy. I like November, December, and March in college basketball. But tonight is a good one in conference. And it's not all SEC. There's other big games out there.
Yeah, no, there's some really good games. I mean, tonight is a really good. You go up to the Big Ten. Illinois, Indiana should be a really good game. That's 6 o'clock on Peacock. So no, I mean, all over the place.
Will Mike Woodson watch?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Couple factors: age. Really hadn't done anything bad,
but hadn't been great. I mean,
and you know we've learned a little bit about Indiana. That might have just been Bobby Knight.
It really might have been, because you look and I mean he's brought in talented players. It's obviously that history is there, but it just feels like he hasn't done anything special there when we think of Indiana basketball and that
tried
tradition.
A lot of different things.
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. We might be getting closer to the end of that era in Indiana basketball. Villanova Xavier gets us started at 5:30. That should be a fun game. Xavier, a 3.5-point favorite at home right now. But when you look at what's going on in the SEC, and we talked about it before that first Saturday of action, we're going to get a lot of nights where it's top 25 versus top 25, and you get that tonight. 15 Mississippi State at number 1 Auburn, 21 Ole Miss at number 4 Alabama, 11 Texas A&M at 8 Kentucky. All three of those games starting at 6 o'clock.
Do you have a crazy conference matchup that you go, wait a second, why are they playing in conference play in January?
Yeah, I would have to look over the slate today and see
USC.
Oh man, I hadn't gotten down to that one. No, you're right. That's the big one. And USC is going to be in there for a lot of them. I think I remember, what was it? Saturday morning, I guess. It was USC and Illinois playing in a conference game, and they kept talking about big conference matchup here, and I'm going, what are we talking about? Oh man, this is a conference game.
A lot of the traditional Big Ten teams, especially going there this Saturday. You got Wisconsin, playing a conference game on campus at SC.
Well, a couple of those late night games. I mean, another one that jumps out to me: 10 o'clock tonight, Central Florida on the road against Arizona State in a Big 12 basketball game. I mean, that's all over the place.
That really is. That's two Dukies.
That's right.
The head coaches.
That is. So throw that in there. Throw ACC in there too. How about that? No, but I'm excited about this slate tonight. And, for Auburn, a home game against Mississippi State, Jani Broome, who's out with an injury right now, how do they play with one of the best players in college basketball right now?
You've got both Egg Bowl participants at both Iron Bowl
How about that?
participants.
That's
tonight.
awesome. I love that. And, a tough game for all of the teams. I mean, you look at who's got the edge in either of these games, and big spreads, relatively big spreads for both of them. Auburn, a 7.5-point favorite. Alabama, an 11.5-point favorite. But I wouldn't be surprised if both these games are really close.
And then Saturday, you will have the Egg Bowl on the hardwood down at Starkville. And the get-in ticket price is way up there.
I believe it. I mean, to have both those teams playing so well right now, I mean, both teams could go into that matchup with 2 losses.
I've never been to basketball at the Hump. I've never been to Starkville for basketball, no.
Is that right? Wow.
I ought to go Saturday.
That's hard to believe, Brad. That
wonder
really
if I could get in.
Well, you got contacts.
I'd hate to sit
tougher
on
to
the
get
top row by
contacts
myself.
at Mississippi State, but you might just be getting a general admission, standing room only ticket for that
What
game.
time is that game Saturday? 6 o'clock, no way.
Yeah, that'll be one of those
Puts me
midnight
on-
drive
nope,
backs.
Not this time of year for me.
No. But, some really good games tonight. And had some good games, a very small slate last night, but one of the big ones of last night, Rutgers, a home win over UCLA last night. And UCLA,
4 straight.
That's 4 straight and 5 of their last 6 for UCLA. Team dealing with injuries, but man, it's looking like
injuries and
it's going in that wrong
checkout
direction.
factor.
It feels like it, and that's what happened last year. I mean, it happened way earlier last year with this team, but I kind of felt like maybe this year could be a good year for UCLA, but in recent weeks it's been anything
UCLA
but that.
won since the Wooden era, and that was 30 years ago this spring. We celebrate Jim Herrick's one title, one UCLA championship. That was over Arkansas in '95 in Seattle.
Wow, that is
at Kingdome. Doesn't exist.
Kingdome. Wow. Yeah. Last win for UCLA. It was a good win. Saturday, December 28th against Gonzaga on a neutral site. Before that, December 17th. So, I mean, we're going back.
So Mick Cronin, what he has to do now is just, kind of take your lumps now. Try to get everything right about February 10th for a push.
Oh, yeah. And with the Big Ten, they have plenty of opportunities to bounce back. I mean, you're looking at just coming up, Wisconsin at home next Tuesday, on the road at USC a couple Mondays from now, 13 Oregon, 12 Michigan State, at 19 Illinois. There are some great opportunities still left on their schedule, so they can be okay. But you kind of got to go through this and try to limit the damage, and then make that push late January and throughout February.
Did you notice Joe Lenardi's bracketology today?
Wow, a bracket from Joey B. I missed it. I'll be completely honest.
Had the Tigers as a 4 seed and opening against Bradley. Missouri Valley game.
That'd be a fun game. Bradley's a good team.
Real good team.
No, I missed that. I'm scrolling through it real quick to try to find. Okay, and wow, if they won that game, get a rematch with Michigan State.
5 seed Bradley. I'm sorry, 5 seed Bradley. 5 seed Memphis against 12 seed Bradley, and winner against Michigan State High Point. Bring on Izzo. If you can beat him in November, you can beat him in March.
Yeah.
You wouldn't run from that, would you?
I wouldn't love it. I would
might
love
prefer different matchups.
Certainly. Well, yes, but that's any time you
Yeah.
get a game against Izzo. But man, that team's they've only gotten better as the season's gone on. And then
Hey, he's going to have a big book. The Tigers have a big
Sure.
book on them too.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. And then you look at, if you get out of those first two games, you can see Alabama.
Saw them in the make-believe game.
In the exhibition before the season. So a lot of familiarity on Joe Lenardi's bracket.
2 years in a row, you could argue Arkansas peaked in the make-believe game. Well, they did beat Duke last year.
Yeah.
But had the Purdue win last year.
That Duke win last year, I mean, that was
Did
quickly
nothing
forgotten.
nothing in Kansas this year in the make-believe game.
Yeah, no, absolutely nothing from them last year. I'm curious to see what Arkansas does, starting tonight against LSU on the road.
Their last team in Joe brackets today.
Who?
Arkansas. No, I'm sorry, first team out.
Arkansas is? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, yeah. So, that's probably where I thought they would be. But, I think we knew very tough start to conference play for Arkansas. But how do you respond now? On the road against LSU, on the road against Missouri, and then back home against another top 25 team.
You got to
Georgia.
go 2 and 1 of those three, don't you?
You got to. I think, and it's going to be tough though because LSU I think is probably bottom 3 team in the SEC right now, but still I like their coach.
But at home at PMAC.
Yeah,
I don't know the whole
game.
in school, not in school.
Oh yeah, I don't know either. But and then on the road against Missouri. Missouri has a win over Kansas this year.
You know why a lot of these schools now have these really extra last or next to last Monday start for spring semester? They're cashing in on intercession.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, my brother Connor, he signed up for classes, did the whole thing, and he gets an email like December 10th. Hey, welcome to this class. We'll get started here in a week. Connor's like, what? I didn't know I signed up for this class. I didn't know it was in the middle of December, middle of break. And so, yeah, he had a class.
So there's a December intercession?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a January one?
Yeah, I think so.
What's the max number of credits you can get in
He said this is a full credit class. That's
a 3-hour class?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But it ended right before the start of January, I think. Yeah.
You could graduate in 2.5 years now.
Maybe it overlapped a little bit. Maybe it was like last part of December, early part of January, but he's been done for a little bit of time now. So, I mean, it was quick. I didn't even know he was in the class
now,
for most of it.
Lenardi's backed up on that 13 SEC teams. It's just 11
Just
today.
11.
And I thought it was going to start
with
backing
one
up.
SEC team being the first team out.
Yeah.
Two SEC teams in the first 4 out and one in the next 4 out.
It's going to make for a fun Wednesday in Nashville.
Oh, yeah. We talk about those kind of
Can
games.
somebody get an at-large bid that plays on Wednesday?
This feels like if there is a year, this feels like the year it would
Matt
be.
Enfield was so good today.
Oh, he was
in so many
fantastic.
ways. I'd forgotten that Temple run, and that was one of those March out of nowhere runs.
Yeah, it sure was. And look,
one wild game.
Yeah, and I'm Thursday night on the road at Temple. That could be one of those games that, if some of these issues start popping up, that could be a game that you struggle.
Citywide freak-out factor if the Tigers lose that one 5 points or less. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is it?
I think it'd be I don't think it would be very
it
high at all.
Register.
It shouldn't. But I mean, there's going to be some people out there that's how do you lose to this team? You always get that though. I don't even know if you count that in the scales. But no, there shouldn't be any freak out there.
It really, every game, it really is Super Bowl.
Yeah.
For the rest of these AAC teams.
It is. I hate saying that, but you're right. I mean, we're getting a whiteout Thursday night for Memphis and Temple, whiteout Sunday for Charlotte, Memphis. I mean,
it's biggest crowd of the year. It's Super Bowl.
It is. And Tigers so far, I mean, only one game on the road in conference.
But you have to understand that the day you commit to playing at Memphis.
Oh yeah. You're gonna get that, especially in this type of conference. Lenardi, Ole Miss, a 6th seed right now in his most recent bracketology, playing the winner of New Mexico and Iowa. That'd be a fun first round game.
Sure would be. In Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Winner gets Kelvin Sampson.
Well, that's not fun.
Enjoy that first
game. That's not a fun prize for winning your game. Tennessee, a 2 seed. Georgia, a 7 seed. I mean,
Georgia's going to back up.
Yeah. I think so too. But they've been fun to watch to start conference play and have surprised some people. But we'll see. Good slate tonight for the SEC.
Who's the Notre Dame of college basketball? It's been a long time. Is it UCLA since they've made Indiana? Did we talk about both of them?
We might have.
I mean, it's just time for them to be back in the mix.
I would
you got
say
Nebraska in college football.
Yeah, but I would say in terms of being Notre Dame, of having that brand that is just so elite and stands on itself, I would say either though, because I mean Indiana as a basketball brand is very strong. So is UCLA.
But Notre Dame in their long success, it was under a couple of different coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true.
UCLA was really one.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana was really one.
Yeah. It's a good question. But I would say those are probably the two closest if I had to say. But good night of college basketball tonight, and it will really get started with those three big SEC games here in about a little bit more than an hour with Mississippi State, Auburn on SEC Network, Ole Miss, Alabama on ESPNU, and then Texas A&M, Kentucky on ESPN2. Well, let's go ahead and get to another break, and when we return, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11, here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, happy hour for 3 cents. $1 off all draft meals, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and mozzarella sticks, queso, $4 Friday night lights from 7 to 11. Dine in and buy grill and take on free. Watch college football every third game. All of the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland. Highway 70, fall is
The Family Leisure floor model sales happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer seating? Family Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. If you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you are this commercial. It's the floor model show now through the end of January. Family Leisure, we rented I-40. Family and fun come together.
High energy, full body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rows, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. 901-673-1267.
Good afternoon. It's running slow over here as they clean up an accident 40 eastbound near Germantown Parkway. Talk about wrong place, wrong time for this time of the afternoon because it gets heavy out here. All that traffic trying to get out towards Fayette County on 40 eastbound at Germantown Parkway. Again, some flashing lights over there a few minutes ago. It has increased just a little bit more trying to get out of Midtown, but it's still moving on 240 south from, let's say, South Parkway down past Norris. Hey, Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
Well, Brett, we talked about the game from last night to wrap up Wild Card Weekend, and that leads me into my big number. 14 is team. Talk about final week of the regular season. They're duking it out with the Lions. Sunday Night Football
That
to
would
determine
win
the
you a
number one
Super
seed.
Bowl a lot of years.
Oh yeah.
14.
Oh, it really would have. But made some history because before this season, no 14 or more win NFL team had ever had its season end with back-to-back losses by any amount. It's never happened. The Vikings lost their last 2 games this season by a combined 40 points. So it's not like they were just, oh man, on the wrong side of it. You lose by a field goal, whatever it's been. It ruined a great year because they were completely beat.
That's all we're going to remember about it.
Yes, and
That's
all
not
we're going to
fair.
remember, and all we're going to remember about Sam Darnold.
Right.
Like, Sam Darnold was great this year, and all we're going to remember is those last 2 games. And whatever happens to him this offseason, whether it's going back to the Vikings or going to a new team, that is going to be what sticks with him.
Are we going to give Oregon that treatment in college football?
Oh man, it's a good question.
Honestly, did we ever really pay attention to them?
Unfortunately, that is the truth of it.
That is
they got lost all season.
How can they be forgotten when we never remember
But
them?
that might be what makes it stick even more, is that nobody was paying attention when they were going undefeated, but we all sat around as a collective
and saw 1 quarter of the Rose
as
Bowl.
a nation.
Yeah.
We all sat around and watched them get absolutely manhandled by Ohio State, and that might be next year if they go out and start 6-0. Everyone's gonna sit there and go, okay, that's great.
Shouldn't
but
they?
when it comes to playoffs, they should. When it comes to playoffs, you're gonna lose and get blown out by Ohio State.
My big number is 87. It could have been the year 1937. That's what it really stands for. 87 years. Jaden Daniels, the first Washington rookie quarterback to win a playoff game since 1937. When Slingin' Sammy Ball did. What a nickname.
Oh, Slingin' Sammy. How could you forget?
Rookie from TCU, Slingin' Sammy Ball. And that game won the NFL championship.
Wow.
Just 2 teams. No long playoffs. Jaden Daniels, they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year, but he is something to watch. Here's some numbers.
Okay.
You want some numbers on the odds for your Cowboys' next head coach?
Jeez.
Dion, plus 150.
Oh, jeez.
Plus 150. This all from Jimmy Shapiro at betonline.ag.
There he is on TV right now.
There he is, right there.
is.
Coach Prime.
Man.
Plus 150. Jason Witten, second. Hope it goes better than broadcasting did. Plus 175. Kellen Moore, plus 220. Ben Johnson, 16-1. Bill Belichick, 16-1. Joe Brady and Cliff Kingsbury, 20-1. John Gruden, 22-1. There's a reason why you can't short any of these. Brian Flores, Lane Kiffin, Liam Cohen, Lincoln Riley, 25-1. They might as well put me on this list.
What are we doing?
Matt Nagy, 28-1. Bobby Slowick, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, Steve Spagnuolo, Todd Monken, 33-1. Let me tell you what the chances are Nick Saban working for Jerry Jones are. 0.
You're pulling my leg. Nick Saban's not on that
I promise
list.
you.
That's insane.
Aaron Glenn should be way up there.
Yeah, well, I don't know why Aaron Glenn
Kurt
isn't
Signetti, 40-1.
Oh, jeez.
Jimmy Schwartz, Matt Campbell, Ron Rivera, 40-1. That's ridiculous.
I don't like many.
Tony
of those options.
Romo.
Oh, all right. Just stop.
50-1.
Just stop. I mean,
Troy Aikman. I'm making that up. He's not on, Tony Romo is on there. Troy Aikman's not. Sean Payton, 75-1. Could have had him a few years ago.
Could have. I would have loved to have him. You want me to lose my love for Tony Romo? You make him the head coach.
Why did you ever have any?
Well, I was a young tot and running around. He was the starting quarterback for my Dallas Cowboys. Loved him.
High hard one.
Okay.
Got to listen to a game. Rather hear Romo or Brady do it.
Nah, I can't answer that because I didn't get to hear any of the games Tom Brady did this year. But I heard he wasn't good. I heard people hated him.
It wasn't bad. I
heard it just didn't meet
the
expectations.
Money. It's the money.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
who
Tom
he
Brady.
is, yes. But whenever I was watching the game he was on, I'd be for whatever reason watching.
I'll tell people where he paid for himself. When they take Tom Brady, when Fox goes out to the upfronts in May, and they're meeting with every advertiser in the country's chief marketing person, and they sit down across from the talent, and it's Tom Brady, that's when he pays for himself.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't make a darn what he says Sunday afternoon at 4:30.
Yeah, his name makes all the money for him. He doesn't need to do anything. I mean, he's Tom Brady. But yeah, no, I've heard mixed reviews certainly on Tom Brady and kind of what he did in the booth this year.
And I'll defend him in defense of him. What do people expect out of the analysts? What do you expect them to say and do?
Yeah.
I mean, are they supposed to recreate the sport? Now, I know a lot of people, well, I want Madden. That doesn't come along just with every analyst.
Yeah, there's a reason.
You know who was close to being Madden?
Who's that?
Was Matt Millen. And then he went front office.
Yeah. Interesting.
And he went full front office, not a little bit front office like Tom Brady. To be that signature voice that we always remember, that's reserved for a really small club.
That's right. That's why they're legends.
Then
they don't come around a lot.
To criticize them, you're making a lot of money. You got to deliver a little more magic than that.
Sure. And I think
analysis is not saying wow every other play.
Well, yeah. We have a couple of commentators that do that.
And
My guy,
Tom Brady, likes to say wow.
Oh, really? That's kind of his thing. Yeah, Tony Romo kind of gets in that.
He's a wow guy.
But no, I think another thing is, Tom Brady throughout his playing career, you would see a lot of interviews and stuff like that where he's really breaking the game down, and I think people want that, but it's so hard in actual in game to do stuff like that.
That appeals to a segment of Sunday afternoon viewers, but to a lot of people, that's in the weeds.
They
that's
don't
too
want
much.
They don't want, and you can go to the podcast to get that.
Right. They want to be entertained.
Yes.
They don't want to go to football school.
Yeah, I need to.
It's tough.
It is.
I think I defend him more of. I mean, what are you expecting? Is he supposed to be on there, juggling?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think I've seen one or two games that he was on and actually listened to because I saw he was on there. I was like, okay, let me turn this on and let me hear it. And I didn't think he was bad by any means.
And you can forget heavy criticism, especially this closely removed from the game, because he's friends with all those people. He knows everybody in the league, and if you expect him to go on the air and blast Sean Payton, you can forget
Never. It's never happening.
And that's a good way. You start doing that a bunch, or let's say he rips on Sean Payton. Sean Payton calls his owner and goes, do something at that owners meeting about him playing GM and analyst.
Yeah, that's how that gets stopped very quickly. But no, it's, year one, he can get better, he can improve.
That's right.
And I think Tom Brady will. But let's go ahead and get to
Kevin
break.
Burkhart's play-by-play guy has been great.
Oh, yeah. No, he's fantastic.
He is. You can put a broom in there with him.
He's just super talented. But let's get to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a whole lot of NFL. Bo Marchant is going to join us on the other side. A reminder, we are out early today because Ole Miss basketball, they are on the road against Alabama. Pre-game will start at 5:30 for that 6 o'clock matchup. Let's go ahead and get to a break. When we come back, we're talking NFL with Bo Marchant.
If wedding bells are in your future, you need an unforgettable engagement ring from a jeweler you can trust. And that's been James Gaddis Jewelers for over 60 years. With a huge selection and the best prices, James Gaddis is a master jeweler and diamondologist. Beautiful jewelry from James Gaddis is always the right choice. Choose from rings to earrings, necklaces to bracelets, and gemstones to watches. Layaway and financing available. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar, online at GaddisJewelers.com and Instagram at Gaddis Jewelers. Say I do at James Gaddis Jewelers.
JLab Audio is changing the audio game for good, producing some of the best earbuds and headphones designed for everyday life without breaking the bank. For those looking to conquer their fitness goals in 2025, JLab recommends the J-Buds Sport ANC4, offering a secure fit, super long battery life, Discover your perfect pair of headphones and upgrade your audio game today. I did. Look for the JLab Blue Box at retailers everywhere or visit jlab.com.
Hungry for that delicious smash burger flavor? Dyer's Cafe is the original smash burger since 1912 and still smashing burgers in Collier's historic town square. Come out for the lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. Ask about the world-famous split dog and authentic Chicago or New York dog. Try the leaner side of Dyer's with a grilled chicken sandwich or freshly made salad. Also serving Lakes, Delta-raised catfish, Pasquale's tamales, and a customer favorite hand-breaded onion rings. Dyer's, serving world-famous burgers, dogs, and shakes in Collier's historic town square.
Sports 56 traffic.
Reg may have some minor injuries on I-40 westbound at Hollywood. Again, it's busy over here in the eastbound lanes this time of the afternoon. Trying to finish the paperwork on the wreck we had earlier on 40 East at Germantown Parkway. It's already heavy enough as it is out through there on 40 going eastbound as you continue out towards Fayette County. Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your full service family-owned jewelry store right here in Memphis. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
From the Family Leisure Studios, we are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Once again,
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you love me.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we got about 30 minutes left in today's show. And joining us now to talk the NFL. We do it every week, and we do it with Bo Marchant.
National Football League talk every Tuesday with Bo Marchant, covering the NFL Draft at collegetopro.com and the NFL Draft Bible, covering the Steelers for Sports Illustrated, living and running in Eastern Ohio, and on Twitter X at Bo Marchant. Here's Bo with Bryant and Brett.
Bo Marchant, who is becoming a little bit of a celebrity. I saw the news did a story about him and his running streak.
They should.
And if you're seeing a shirtless man running
Renaissance
around,
man.
he might be a little crazy, but he knows what he's doing. Bo, where are we in our run streak?
Today is 9,873. We just completed 27 straight years on the 4th.
Started what day?
January 4th of 98.
Golly.
That's insane.
And Bo, what makes me just feel so very minuscule is when you say that, and you're running how far every day?
3 mile minimum.
3 mile minimum. And I am so very proud of my 1.6 miles I walked
You should
yesterday.
be proud of that, Brett. You know what? Forget everything. Forget all the noise. You should be proud of that, Brett.
That's just incredible, Bo, that stamina.
Yeah, you know what?
Discipline.
Listen,
yeah.
I know guys and gals that, they'll do 40 miles today, and then tomorrow they'll do a 20-mile cool-off run. So it's all in perspective, So listen. We're all pushing ourselves to be our best, one way or another. And I'm just fortunate. I love doing it, but at the end of the day, I always like to say that I'm a domestic cat who wishes he was a mountain lion. 'Cause there's a lot of people doing some really crazy things, but that's the best way for me to put it is I am a domestic cat. Like today, I went running at a local lake, and the lake's frozen over, and there's guys out there, folks out there fishing, in their shanties on the ice, and I'm thinking, you wouldn't get me to walk on that ice, but they're out there doing it. So I look at them like they're crazy, and they're probably on the lake fishing, looking at me going, look at this crazy guy. So, again, it's all in perspective. It's all what you're comfortable with.
How do you think and when do you think it will end?
Well, right now I hope it doesn't. And it's going to be a sad day nonetheless. It'll be something catastrophic where I just can't physically do it. And, I'll just have to come to peace with that. But other than that, no, I love doing it. So that's the whole thing. Like people say, is it a burden? No, I cannot wait. It's probably the most rewarding part of my day is being able to get out there and just kind of feel the serenity, especially in the snow and the peace, the quiet of it all. I do enjoy it. But when the day comes, and it will come, I'm closer to that than I am, anything else. I'll just have to, I guess, deal with that, but be thankful for the journey that I got to experience.
Well, it really is a good segue. One of these days, it will end for Mike Tomlin as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's been a glorious run. I don't think it should end after this year, but I think we're closer. I think we can see the finish line. I think there are less days ahead of Mike Tomlin than there are behind him as head coach of the Steelers.
Yeah, well, what's funny is he was in the back of my mind when I said that because I think it was not last year, but the year prior. It might have been the opening of training camp in Latrobe. He said, he knows that he's closer to the end. He knows that his time there isn't gonna. He's not gonna have another 18 years on the docket. He knows that he's towards the tail end of it, regardless of success or not. He signed till 2027, and I kind of like to compare him to Baker Mayfield when he was in Cleveland. It just wasn't working out. It was a time for divorce. I don't know if we've come to that point, but it is a very unhappy fan base. And, unless you're, rose-colored glasses, that think that they were going to go into Baltimore last week and be victorious, anything's possible. But I just think if you looked at it realistically, the way that they played down the stretch, the way Baltimore's played down the stretch, that I didn't know it was going to be they were going to run the way they did on them, but nonetheless I wasn't surprised by the outcome. So his greatest success is being a great coach, but that's also his biggest curse because he hides and masks a lot of what I don't think other coaches could get out of a football team. Is he perfect? No coach is, but I really believe that when you look at the talent on that team, it kind of pales in comparison. I was talking with somebody last night real quick, and I said, hey, how about the Eagles offense? Is there anybody on the Eagles offense where you would say, hey, let's put this guy from the Steelers in place of them? And, you might want to go tick for tack, maybe on some O-line positions, but I don't think there's a position where you'd say, okay, you know what, we want one of these Steeler guys to start. And it's just a comparison where, it's just not the team that, you think it is. It's just they play good football. They can get by, but when it really comes to these talented teams, they're just missing that pieces. And you need great coaching, but in the end, you need great players.
You mentioned that fan base. I heard a national commentator. It was really a good take. I think it was either Orlovsky or Graziani. It was one of the two. Early Monday morning, said the further you get from Acrisure Stadium, the more liked Mike Tomlin is. That if you get 200 miles from Pittsburgh, he's got that reputation as one of the real poobahs of the game. You get to that tailgate seat around Acrisure, and he's not very well liked. Is that accurate?
I think that's a fair assessment, especially the way it's gone the last decade. Not a lot of playoff success, but I just think you got. We talk to Brian every single week. We joke about the Cowboys. That's another fan base where they're spoiled with success. They're spoiled with the idea that, hey, every year's our year. And the Steelers fan base falls into that same category where, making the playoffs isn't the only substitute for success is a Super Bowl. And absent of that, it's just going to be frustration. And if they had different guys, to say a turnstile of different coaches coming through there, right when you get to that point where you're like, okay, we need to make a change, you kind of get, okay, let's get excited again. But the Steelers, 3 coaches in the last 50 years, and they're not going to, the Rooney, they're not going to buckle. They're not going to, say, okay, the people who just hypothetically, the folks in Pittsburgh and around the area aren't happy with things. But at the end of the day, they know what they have in house. And being fortunate enough to spend time with Coach Tomlin when we have, some of that Steeler media stuff that's in private, I'm telling you, and I think you probably say it's all about head coaches. I mean, you really have to be a special person, and he can lead. There's no comparison, and I really don't think the message is old or any of that. I look at the team, and I just don't think the team is on par with some of these other teams. And it starts with quarterback. You got an older guy in Russell Wilson. You got an unproven product in Justin Fields, and they're going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board again in 2025.
And running back's not any better.
Yeah, Najee, plays hard, team leader, but nonetheless,
not
productive. He's just not that explosive guy that I mean, you're seeing Derrick Henry's 20 pounds bigger, but he's more elite. And, it's just a knock on Najee that, he does he work? Yeah. Does he
from
battle?
Bama, you see Josh Jacobs better.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's why you kind of see them leaning towards Jalen Warren, undrafted, out of Oklahoma State, and, doing his thing. So, I mean, they're going to have to go. I mean, when you're bad, it's not a good thing, but at least when you have a lot of needs, when the draft comes and free agency, you can kind of, apply all those sources of cap space and draft picks to kind of help your team, and they'll need to do all that.
Defense is getting cracked on. T.J. Watt's catching it, never won a playoff game. Big Brother only won 3. I mean, the Watt boys don't do a lot in the postseason.
It's hard. It's difficult. TJ, just a competitor. Those guys was down there yesterday in Pittsburgh. The guys were their last day media for the players as they made their exit meetings, and TJ was there. He spoke. Russ spoke. Pat Fryermuth spoke. And I think I'm missing one other guy, and I grabbed a couple rookies. But it's not a happy place when
Clean out day's
expectations are high. I'm sorry?
Clean out day's terrible.
Yeah, clean out day is terrible, especially when there's only one team that's going to have a good clean out day, and they're
and they're also hungover; they can't even breathe.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. There was points this year I really believed that they were going to make an impact in the playoffs, maybe not necessarily win it all, but I thought they would at least be competitive going in, but they just came apart down the stretch. And I don't think they're as bad as they were in terms of this 5-game losing streak. And people are probably shaking their heads saying, what's this guy talking about? But, they're not elite enough to, I think hang consistently with these top teams. But, I just think in the way that they played down the stretch wasn't reminiscent of the way that they played prior to, achieving a 10-3 record and then finishing 10-7. They lost some mojo. They lost some things. The players talked about execution. But that's a cliche word that we always hear. We got to execute better. We got to watch the film. After every loss, that's what every player says, except for George Pickens, who, you can like him or not like him, but you got to respect his honesty. I made my wife watch that post after the game when I got home, and I said he's the one guy where the wife says, "Do I look fat in that dress?" George Pickens and go, "Yes, you do look fat in that dress."
Yeah, better be careful with that, especially with those hands that he sometimes can display. I talk often here about perspective, kind of remembering, kind of where you once were, where you came from. Steel Curtin, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann, Terry Bradshaw, Jack Lambert. They're not walking through that door every day. It might also the perspective. Do you think it increases the appreciation? Does it ramp it up for Big Ben?
Maybe. That's a great point. I don't know. Ben's beloved.
Hines Ward.
Hines Ward, all those guys. But when you mention some of those guys, Hines and Ben, you're talking about Hall of Fame type players. And, right now. You could say Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame type player, but not.
It wasn't with Pittsburgh.
Wasn't with Pittsburgh. And right now, when you look at that team, you could say Cam Hayward, but Cam's near the end. And my biggest fear, this is not like this organization is going to fall on its knees once Cam Hayward leaves, but for me, Cam is the true leader of that team, and I would even say that when Ben was there. Cam is the guy. Win or lose, he is in the face of, celebration and defeat. And I think, hopefully his demeanor and the way he carries himself, the residue of what he brings to that organization rubs off on some of these young guys. Because I'm telling you, you talk about a pro, a man's man, a guy that you just very admiring of what he brings to the table.
Is he best locker room interview ever?
Yeah, maybe not the best locker room, but one, he's never going to turn you down. He's never going to be short. He's going to come correct, and he stands by what he says.
A man.
Yeah, he's. I'm telling you, he's a. When you look in the dictionary, just a leader, or what you would expect from a leader of a team. I can look no further than Cam Hayward, especially being around the game of football.
The ones I love. It's easy to talk when you win. The ones that pop out there when you lose.
And he's there time and time again. And Ben was like that too, Ben. But a lot of, but I think this is also a thing where I mean, even Cam's age compared to these young guys, and you're talking not 2 generations, but a generation, a decade and a half.
Makes a difference.
I mean, it's a big difference. So you have a whole different type of mentality.
Ton of difference between being 35 and 22.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I remember when Miles Boykin was there a couple years ago, last year, and he was, I think, 27, and the young guys would call him old and tease him. So he's like, I'm 27, and these guys are making fun of me. So it's a young man's game, but if you're, if you can make it past a certain age, you kind of get the respect. But it's fun, and the camaraderie of a team. That's probably some of the funnest stuff that you see inside a locker room. Just seeing the guys, joke around just amongst each other. Like yesterday when I was talking to Zach Frazier, Nate Herbig walked up and he started joking around, like, what are we going to talk about today? Kind of like he was interviewing him too. So those are the little things that just make it fun when they're relaxed. And, after a loss is always disappointing. But during practice week when there's not such, I know it's not a practice week this week, but just for say, during the middle of the week when you're going to talking with these guys, they're not in that mindset of win or loss. It's just kind of practice mode, which usually makes for a better response and a better time for, interviewing these guys.
Mm-hmm. Bo, who impressed you the most during Wild Card Weekend, and what did Sam Darnold do to himself and what this offseason could be with that performance the last 2 weeks?
Well, last night, I don't think any quarterback would have had success the way that they were protecting him. The one ball he threw, the interception, the ball came out. I mean, it should have been high and out, and it went low and in. So,
That's a man that knows ball. Makes that comment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just think the Rams, I thought played great. I think I guess on the other side, I don't think. Listen, Darnold might not have hurt himself or helped himself the last 2 weeks, but I think if you're really watching it and breaking it down, you're going to see what he did well in terms of protection. Where we know he's not Lamar Jackson, so he's not going to scramble and make these spectacular plays. He's going to have to kind of remain somewhere in the pocket and do the best he can. But I like what the Rams did, and we talk a team that I think kind of not getting a lot of respect, but you got a Super Bowl winning coach, you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. How many other teams have that same resume that are in the playoffs right now? You could say a couple, but like I said, the Rams are a very dangerous team, and I think the adversity for what's going on in Los Angeles and the West Coast with the fires, and for them to play the way that they did, it reminded me of when Brett Favre's father passed away, and he played that Monday night, and he played phenomenal. It was one of his best games, and I think that's the demeanor of sometimes it's going to work for you in the face of adversity, and sometimes you do what Brett Favre did, you do what the Rams did last night. So maybe this is a call, a rally cry, if you will, where they're going to kind of try to put the fires and the momentum on their back and kind of bring some joy to what's horrifically going on out west. But who knows? But I think the Rams are a very dangerous team. They're playing a heck of a team in Philadelphia, who I like a lot. I like the NFC. I just think the winner's going to come out of the NFC. I like Detroit. I like Philly.
Enough. You think Jalen Hurts is healthy enough?
Yeah, I think he is. And they were rusty last week, but Green Bay played them tight. We were texting through the game. There were points where they could have lost the game, the Eagles, but I don't really. They're never gonna. To me, the Packers were never really in it. It just seemed like it was just an ugly football game. Play after play, it just was ugly. But I just never felt like Green Bay, and the injuries kept piling up on them, and the score would have been a little bit worse if Barkley doesn't fall. So we just can add another touchdown basically to the score, and it looks a lot different than what we saw. But Philly's there, and then we're going to see a team that hasn't played since Christmas, and the Chiefs. How do they respond? Houston played very dominant football against a good Chargers football team last weekend. So it should be a great week 2 of the playoffs. I'm excited for all these matchups. As I mentioned last week, I wasn't surprised by any of the outcomes or how they would have ended, but I think when we look at it, I think all the teams that won, we assumed would win. I thought Washington would beat Tampa. I didn't think they would beat them convincingly, which they didn't. They had to get a doink field goal to, win the game. But the Ravens, Baltimore and Buffalo, etc., the Eagles. And, last night's game, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know which way that was going to go. But, I wasn't surprised that the Rams won the way that they did.
I was 0-6 picking last weekend, Bo. 0-6.
Well, I didn't pick, so I can't. I can't say I was 6-0.
I did. I missed them all.
4-2.
It takes talent.
Wow.
I've always said at the casino, at any place, if you bet a more than 2-team parlay and you miss them all, they at least ought to give you a free buffet coupon.
Something free.
Yeah, it's a great. Did you pick Pittsburgh with the points, or you took Pittsburgh straight up
points? It was all with
okay,
spreads.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
but
right.
still,
I was like, wow, Pittsburgh straight up. I was like, well, that's
6,
that's
Bo.
It's bold.
Still 0-6. Key number there is the O.
Yeah, it's not great. Well, Bo, as always, thanks so much for joining us. I guess next week we'll get into the wild world of the Cowboys coaching search.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I thought of you right when I heard his dismissal. I thought of you first.
We love content. We're gonna have it with the Cowboys.
That's right. We sure will. Talk to you next week, Bo.
Yep. Stay safe, gentlemen.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Bo. Bo Marchant joining us each and every week to talk the NFL, and so much to get into with the playoffs going on and a lot of teams needing new head coaches. Well, we're about to get to an early crunch time because we're out early. Ole Miss basketball, they're on the road against Alabama tonight. That pregame show will start here in a couple minutes at 5:30. But before we do that, let me remind you about our great 5 o'clock sponsor. It's Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City, they've been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984, and their talented team, they're ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the 2025 Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender. Available in multiple models to fit your needs, the Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. Go online at jaguarbluffcity.com, but please go out and test drive these beautiful vehicles. 6335 Wheel Cove, just off Quince, for that next perfect vehicle at Bluff City Jaguar. Let's go ahead and get to crunch time.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye!
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin, this baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today, it looks like Kevin Harlan and Amazon are nearing a deal for him to be one of the voices for the NBA on Amazon.
Great choice.
We know we're going to get into a new world of how we consume the NBA starting next season. One of those will be streaming on Amazon, and it looks like they're trying to put together a really nice
You could call
team.
badminton, make it interesting.
It'd be great. So if they can get Kevin Harlan, that'd be huge. I know I was looking at something the other day that I think said Blake Griffin and maybe Dirk Nowitzki are supposed to be part of the kind of studio team for Amazon and their NBA coverage. So it looks like they're trying to go out there and,
Exciting, I think.
Get a lot of big-time names, and Kevin Harlan certainly would do that.
I learned tonight we're getting ready to go to Coleman Coliseum with David Kellum courtside there. It's as bad historically at Alabama for Ole Miss basketball as it is football. It's rough to go down there for them and win. Ole Miss versus number 7 on the road, 22 net. Ole Miss versus 7 on the road tonight. Just don't get smashed like they did in Memphis, and the net won't be bad.
No, not at all. What I could have done without the news coming out, I guess it broke last night. I really saw it earlier today that former Major League Baseball player Bubba Thompson is joining South Alabama's football team as a walk-on. 27 years old. He was an all-state quarterback back in 2016.
Chris Winkie did it. Won the Heisman doing that.
Yeah, and it feels like it's becoming a trend. You had the receiver at Arkansas that did it last year. I guess it's a cool story, but I don't know if I love the go in and then coming back and trying to be a walk-on at the age of 26, 27. No, not at all. Not at all.
Never see him in a classroom. I could have done without the Vikings' performance last night. I'm afraid it's going to detract from their 14-2 year or 14-win year and all that was accomplished. Vikings still have never won a Super Bowl, win 14 games, and don't even get close to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough reality, and I think it's what we're going to remember for this Vikings team. Is so good, but you lose your last two games in the two biggest games of the season.
It's a ring world.
It sure is, and they were not anywhere close to it. Where are you beaming on it?
Bryant Drive in Tuscaloosa for basketball. Bama,
how about that?
They lead 74-11 all-time in Tuscaloosa, 186 all-time meeting. Last Ole Miss win there in the land of the Bear, 2015.
That's going to be a fun game. I mean, we talked about it. This 6 o'clock slate in the SEC is going to be really, really good quality basketball. I would expect, at least. You never know with these games in the SEC. Some of them can turn into blowouts. Beam me down to week 2, game 2 of the TGL. And tonight, we get the big cat, Tiger Woods, out there.
What are the teams tonight?
So it is I'm so glad you asked, Brett. Jupiter Lynx against the Los Angeles Golf Club. Here are your 3-man teams for each. For the Lynx, Tiger Woods, Kevin Kisner, and Max Homa. Max Homa was just on ESPN doing a live interview while he was warming up. On the other side, for the LA Golf Club, Justin Rose, Colin Morikawa, and Sahith Theegala.
Now, these make-believe teams, or is there really an LA Golf Club?
That's the one gripe I have against the TGA. We're all in one location. Most of these guys have no history or anything with these places that they're representing. Let's just be like, I hate saying let's be like Live. Let's just be like Live and just call one team the Lynx, the other...
Well, how about in Jupiter we do Seminole against LA Country Club?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Or Riviera.
You could do something like that. If you want to incorporate the cities, do something like that. But I will say, good reviews last week for TGL Week 1. I think a lot of people wanted to see the newness of it. I think there will be good reviews again tonight with Tiger. Don't know about next week, though.
I'm not counting on watching a lot. I'm sorry.
I'm watching the whole thing, Brett.
I'm going to watch State at Auburn tonight. I'm going to watch number 11 A&M at Rupp against number 8 Kentucky. Arkansas trying to avoid 0-4 in SEC play at PMAC on the campus of LSU right by Tiger Stadium. And in the American, North Texas at ECU.
Yeah, a really good night with all of the college basketball. We've got about 7 NBA games as well, so some really good action.
Denver, Dallas.
Those games, yeah, on 2 big games on TNT. You mentioned Denver and Dallas. The first game, Cavaliers and the Pacers. So both those games should be fun on TNT. So good night of sports. That's all the time we have. Again, we're out early. Ole Miss basketball against Alabama. Coming up with the pregame show here in a couple of minutes at 5:30. Tip time set for 6 o'clock. Enjoy your night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.